Chapter 1248. King Yama. Black Fox had always had a good relationship with Black Serpent. Seeing what happened to Black Serpent, she suddenly felt a sense of sympathy. She even imagined that King Yama would save her if she was the one guarding the #1 hidden island today. It wasn't just her, but the other 17 people were also thinking about it. However, the result made them feel a chill down their spines. King Yama's eyes swept over the faces of Black Fox's 18 people and slowly said, "You are my 18 most loyal people. In the past, all of you followed me on expeditions to the south and fought your way out of the 9 nether yellow springs. But Black Snake is different. Although he chose to follow me, he followed me later, so he can't be compared to you. If it were any of you today, I would have done everything I could to save you." In an instant, the 18 of them felt ashamed of their earlier thoughts. Their trust in King Yama was built up through countless battles and countless years of accompanying him. They were even willing to die for him. And they also believed that he would do everything he could to save them if the time came. "King Yama, I'm so aggrieved." Black Fox clenched her fists and her eyes flashed with hatred. She said in a deep voice, "Are we really going to stay on Yama Island like this? Are we just going to let the Great Tang Empire shit on our heads?" King Yama frowned and asked, "What do you think we should do if we don't hide here?" A cold light flashed in Black Fox's eyes. She said in a deep voice, "Open the door to the 9 nether underworld and attract those evil ghosts. In any case, the evil ghosts in the 9 nether yellow springs will never be able to reincarnate, and they will never be able to enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. Instead of letting them live in the darkness of the 9 nether yellow springs, we might as well let them be our blades, the blades that can turn the tables and kill us." King Yama was silent for a moment and shook his head. "Have you ever thought about what kind of situation we'll face once we release all the evil ghosts in the 9 nether underworld? Do you think those ghost officials in the underworld will let us disturb the order of the world with the 9 paths of reincarnation and control?" Black Fox said, "A war can only confuse the underworld at most, and make them unable to understand what happened in the world. Even if the ghost officials of the underworld come to investigate, the war will be over by then. We can hide immediately regardless of whether we win or lose. Hell won't be able to track us down, and we'll be able to start all over again in due time." Hades looked at the others and asked, "What do you guys think?" "Agreed. Fuck. No problem." The other 17 people nodded heavily. The murderous aura emanating from their bodies became even more intense. After weighing the pros and cons inwardly, Yama finally approved Black Fox's suggestion and slowly said, "Since all of you agree, then let's play it big. Even if we don't emerge victorious in the final battle, the Great Tang Empire will still suffer great losses. Most importantly, I hated those fellows in the underworld. If I could give them some trouble, it would be a good thing to do. Black Fox, you are in charge of gathering all the members of the organization. Activate the 9th hidden island and have them gather there. In addition, I need 3 days to arrange the formation. Once the Yellow Springs portal opens, a steady stream of malicious ghosts will appear on the 9th hidden island from the 9 nether springs." "All right." Everyone nodded, their eyes bursting with excitement. They were a group of lawless and ruthless characters who practiced the ghost Tao through their physical bodies. After thousands of years of cultivation, they had long been accustomed to seeing life and death, and had long been indifferent to life and death. As long as it wasn't their own people, they wouldn't care even if 1 billion or 10 billion people died. Even their cultivation needed the assistance of souls. If they could devour a lot of souls, their strength might advance by leaps and bounds and reach a higher level. On the first hidden island, Tang Along looked at Black Snake, who was slowly waking up, and smilingly said, "You thought that Yama came back to save you, yet he directly gave you up. Is it fun? Are you very disappointed in your heart right now? Are you very angry?" Black Snake raised his head and said, "I'm very disappointed and angry, but my hatred for you is stronger than his. I know you have questions for me, but I'm telling you, don't even think about getting any information from me." Tang Along chuckled and said, "I know you're not a human being, are you?" "If I'm not mistaken, you're not a human, are you?" asked Tang Along with a smile. Black Snake snorted coldly. "I'm a general of the Ghost Clan, a subordinate of the King of Hell. Damn it, why should I tell you?" Tang Along shook his head and smilingly said, I didn't expect the ghost race to appear in the human world. More importantly, they even established an organization. Interesting, really interesting. How about we make a deal? Black Snake snorted. What deal? Tell me what I want to know and I'll fulfill your 3 wishes, said Tang Along. Of course, there's one wish that I've already thought of for you. And that is to kill the person you're loyal to, that so-called King Yanluo. As for the other 2, you can bring them up yourself. Black Snake narrowed his eyes. He had always liked to use schemes and intrigues, so after hearing Tang Along's words, his mind quickly raced, thinking about how to get away and how to get some benefits. Indeed, he hated Hades very much, because through the previous battle, he knew that he had been abandoned by Hades. She thought about how she had been so loyal to him and treated him as the most important person in her life. However, she didn't expect that she wasn't even a chess piece in his eyes. What do you want to know? Asked Black Snake without batting an eyelid. Where's King Yanluo's lair? Asked Tang Along with a smile. That's the Darkwind Organization's lair. Black Snake was silent for a few minutes. Then he suddenly raised his head and shouted, King Yanluo, don't blame me for being unjust since you're so heartless. You're the one who abandoned me and my brothers first. After roaring, he immediately looked down at Tang Along and said in a deep voice, The Darkwind Organization's lair is in Yama Island, only 200 nautical miles away from here. It's a place that can't be found on the satellite map. The entire Yama Island is covered by an array, so outsiders can't find it at all. Who is King Yanluo? Asked Tang Along immediately. How many experts are there in the Darkwind Organization? King Yanluo is not a person of this world. Not only him, but me and my 18 subordinates don't belong here, said Black Snake. We come from the 9 Nether Underworld, a place where evil spirits can never enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. King Yanluo has a very distinguished status in the 9 Nether Underworld as one of the 3 commanders of that world. It's because we accidentally found a spatial crack that we built a secret passage there. It's just that it's easy to come out, but it's very difficult to go back in. Of course, it's not like there's no way out, but we'll have to pay a hefty price. Besides, this world is the one we like, so we don't want to go back unless it's a last resort. As for how many experts the Darkwind Organization has, aside from the unfathomable King Yanluo, there are also his 18 trusted subordinates and hundreds of ghost cultivators trained by King Yanluo. Tang Along squinted his eyes with countless thoughts churning in his mind. He felt that he must tell his master, Tan Xiao, about this matter since it involved another world. Immediately after, he took out his communicator and dialed Tan Xiao's number. Alang, it's me. Shortly after, Tan Xiao's deep voice came from the phone. There's an unexpected situation, master, said Tang Along respectfully. The leader of the Darkwind Organization, the one called King Yanluo, is not a human from Earth, but from the 9 Nether Underworld. We captured one of King Yanluo's subordinates and got the information from him. Send me your current coordinates and don't act rashly for the time being, said Tan Xiao. I'll catch up with you immediately. Understood. Tang Along replied. After sending the coordinates, he looked at Black Snake again and asked, Is that guy who calls himself King Yanluo really that strong? He can become one of the 3 commanders of the 9 Nether Underworld, so his cultivation level is naturally unfathomable. Black Snake nodded and said, He's best at arrays and has a very high attainment in this aspect. He was the one who personally set up the formation around the first hidden island. Although I don't know how you managed to break this feng shui formation, I think you should have figured out his means. Tang Along nodded and said, You've told me everything I want to know, so tell me your remaining 2 conditions. Black Snake gave it a thought and said, Spare my life and take me to see the scene of King Yanluo's death. I only have these requirements. Tang Along couldn't help laughing and said, It seems you really hate that King Yanluo. It's no wonder though. After all, you're loyal and devoted to him. Yet he treated you like trash and abandoned you. Anyone in your shoes would feel very pained and have a deep hatred for him. You're actually a pitiful man. Pitiful man? Black Snake closed his eyes in pain, but the murderous aura emanating from his body became more intense. Tang Along no longer paid attention to Black Snake and turned to look at Tang Jin's group of 5 in front of him, shouting in a deep voice, "Convey my order." He ordered the scouts to immediately head out in all directions 200 kilometers away to look for places that were out of place. Do remember to return and report at once you find something suspicious. Understood. Tang Jin's group of 5 nodded and quickly arranged it. Half a day later, hundreds of scouts returned one after another, and Tang Along also figured out the specific location of the Yama Island. However, just as Black Snake said, there was an array shrouding the island. If it weren't for the scouts being very strong and having good escape skills, they would have been killed there. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A figure flickered from a distance, and Tan Xiu appeared on the first hidden island. Standing in front of Tang Along, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, "Tell me the specific situation." "Understood," replied Tang Along respectfully. The return from the immortal world would officially end at the end of this month. Chapter 1249. Tang Along told Tan Xiu the result of his inquiry and finally said, "Master, this is related to another world, so I think it's necessary to tell you about it." "You did a good job." Tan Xiu nodded. "Besides, I have a hunch that the King of Hell we're going to face next won't be easy." Tang Along's expression shifted and said, "Master, according to Black Snake's confession, King Yama only has hundreds of experts trained by him left in addition to his 18 trusted subordinates. Our martial legion has a total of 50,000 people. Coupled with the experts you brought here, it shouldn't be that difficult to exterminate them all, right?" Tan Xiu didn't answer Tang Along's question and said, "Shui should have followed you here. Tell her to come out and see me." Tang Along stared blankly and immediately asked with a confused expression, "But I haven't seen Madame Shuiyu, master." Tan Xiu raised his brows and instantly released his spiritual sense. In a flash, he found Shuiyu's figure on the beach nearby. However, she was wearing a black battle robe and didn't expose herself in the Legion's ranks. Tan Xiu forced a smile and shook his head. He instantly appeared in front of Shuiyu and helplessly said, "Was it fun?" Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Shuiyu's mouth immediately curved into an arc and smilingly said, "It's indeed very interesting. I only knew that the Legion's combat power is good, but it's really shocking to see tens of thousands of soldiers in action at the same time. Anyway, how did you know that I secretly followed you?" "You followed the Martial Legion, Kong Xia followed the Dragon Legion, Ouyang Lulu followed the Tiger Legion, and even Mu Weiniang secretly followed the Phoenix Legion," Tan Xiu smilingly said. "Of course, apart from you, there are also some experts from the Great Tang Empire, who secretly followed you around under my arrangement. How come I didn't see them?" Shuiyu was surprised. "They're from the Slaughter Division," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Shuiyu instantly understood and forced a wry smile. The members of the Slaughter Division trained by Tang and are indeed very mysterious, so it's not easy to find them. In addition, Yenair has personally trained those homicidal maniacs in the Kill Division for a long time. Their current strength, I'm afraid that even the weakest among them has reached the soul formation stage, right? Tan Xiu smiled and said, "They have indeed reached the soul formation stage, but compared to you, a body integration stage expert, there is still a gap. I didn't expect your cultivation speed to be so fast. In such a short time, you actually improved so much. Maybe it won't be long before you can break through to the Deshang stage? It's normal to cultivate faster after obtaining the inheritance of that immortal," said Shuiyu with a smile. "By the way, you shouldn't be here. Why are you here now?" Tan Xiu's expression turned serious and said, "There's a special situation. The Dark One's leader is actually from another world. Therefore, I had to personally come over to oversee things. Let's go. Let's go somewhere and meet this King of Hell." "You actually dare to call him King of Hell?" Shuiyu shook her head and sighed with a smile. "Don't take it lightly," said Tan Xiu. "He must be very strong since he can come here from another world. At the very least, he's at the Deshang stage." While they were talking, Tan Xiu grabbed Shuiyu's waist and instantly flew toward Yama Island. A few minutes later, they appeared on the periphery of the island. Looking at the scene shrouded in black mist ahead, Tan Xiu shook his head and sighed. This place is indeed very hidden. Only those who come here will be able to find the abnormality here. Otherwise, even the satellites can't monitor the abnormality here, let alone find out that there's an island here. An array? Asked Shuiyu with a frown. It's indeed an array, and it's not an ordinary one either. Tan Xiao nodded. With that said, Tan Xiao instantly released his spiritual sense and quickly comprehended the array in front of him. In just 10 minutes, he had thoroughly comprehended the 13 arrays on the periphery. However, he encountered some difficulty when he was comprehending the 14th formation. But in just a few minutes, he was able to comprehend the formation thoroughly. Break. Tan Xiao instantly unleashed the divine sword and shot it toward Azura Island like a rainbow. In just a moment, the 14 arrays on the periphery were easily broken by Tan Xiao. Inside Yama Island, King Yama stood in front of the virtual light screen and stared dumbfoundedly at Tan Xiao's sword attack. His heartbeat accelerated as he watched the arrays being broken one by one. How is this possible? King Yama was sure that the young man had only been outside for a short time, yet he was able to comprehend the arrays he had arranged and easily find the array core in such a short time. This was simply inconceivable. Hei, who also looked shocked and hurriedly said, "How did he do it, King Yama? There are 14 arrays, and each of them is very powerful. How did he break them with a single sword attack?" King Yama took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I originally had 2 trump cards. The first is my own strength, and the second is the 18 arrays I've arranged. I didn't expect that there would be someone in the Great Tang Empire who is proficient in arrays, and his attainments are probably above mine." "How is this possible?" Hei Hu was shocked. "Your attainments in arrays are far superior to those in the netherworld, let alone those in the 9 nether underworld. I'm afraid that even those powerhouses in the netherworld can't compare to you. He's just a young man with a high cultivation, but how can his attainments in arrays be higher than yours?" King Yama's expression turned ugly. He shook his head and said, "There are all sorts of strange things in the boundless universe. This guy is definitely a freak among freaks. If he can break the remaining 4 arrays, I'm afraid we'll have to shelve our previous opportunity. If he can break the arrays, he can also arrange more arrays. If the array he arranged is even more powerful, it'll be a devastating blow to us." Hei Hu's pupils shrunk and he stared at the virtual light screen nervously. He secretly prayed that the remaining 4 arrays could stump the young man and keep him outside. On the periphery of Yama Island, Tan Xiao hovered in the air. His eyes seemed to be able to see through the remaining 4 arrays and see everyone inside. A billowing voice also came out of Tan Xiao's mouth. "You're the leader of the Dark Wind, King Yama. You're able to set up an intelligence network all over the world, and you're also from another world. I can assure you that I won't kill you when you come out." King Yama hesitated for a moment before his figure flashed and disappeared from the pagoda. When he reappeared in the next moment, he was already on the coastline of Yama Island. While looking at Tan Xiao outside the array, King Yama indifferently said, "If I'm not mistaken, you're the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire, Tan Xiao. Am I right?" "You have good eyesight, sir." Tan Xiao chuckled. "We've always minded our own business, Tan Xiao," said King Yama lightly. "My Dark Wind has never done anything against you, has it? Why do you want to make things difficult for me? Why did you lead your Great Tang Empire's army to kill me?" "You've disrupted the order and destroyed the balance of humanity," said Tan Xiao calmly. "You've been making money by selling other people's private information, which has seriously threatened us. Let's have a talk. If you want me to stop, take your men and leave this place to return to your world. Else what?" King Yama sneered. "You want to kill me?" Tan Xiao nodded and said, "It's easy for me to kill you given my strength. The reason why I haven't destroyed the remaining 4 formations, and why I haven't attacked you yet is because I want to give you and my subordinates a chance." "You want to use the Dark Wind to train your troops?" King Yama sneered. "You're really wise, sir." Tan Xiao gave a thumbs up and praised. "I can't hide this little trick of mine from you. What do you think of the condition I just offered?" "I don't think much of it." King Yama sneered. "I won't leave unless you can break the array I've arranged in a short time." Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "I can break it easily, but I don't think it's the time yet. You can break the 14 arrays I've arranged outside, which shows that your attainments in arrays are indeed good," said King Yama disdainfully. "However, The remaining 4 formations are the most powerful ones that I can set up. It won't be easy even for you to break them. Are you sure? While talking with King Yama, Tanxio's spiritual sense was still integrated into the 15th array, and thoroughly comprehended it. He was just deliberately stalling for time by talking to King Yama. Of course I'm sure, said King Yama proudly. Tanxio let out a faint smile and unleashed the divine sword again, fiercely bombarding the 15th array's array core. As the array core was destroyed, the array's foundation was also damaged. Finally, the 15th array vanished, having been directly broken by Tanxio. Disbelief was cast on King Yama's devilish face. He didn't expect that Tanxio didn't lie to him, and could easily break the remaining arrays. Now do you believe me? Asked Tanxio with a smile as he put away the divine sword. King Yama took a deep breath and shook his head. Again. Let me see it again. Tanxio leisurely took out a cigarette, lit it, and took a few deep puffs. Then he said, since you want to see the power of my arrays, then I'll show you again. Lightning sword, break it for me. The divine sword accurately destroyed the eye of the 16th array formation, and easily destroyed this array formation. Do you still want to see it again? Asked Tanxio with a smile. At this moment, King Yama's expression was incomparably shocked. He never dreamed that Tanxio could really break the remaining arrays so easily. Who the hell are you? King Yama was afraid of many people in his life, but the one he dreaded the most was undoubtedly this mysterious and unfathomable young man in front of him. I'm the emperor of the great Tang Empire, Tanxio, said Tanxio with a faint smile. Not only am I the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, the descendant of the Tang family in the former imperial capital, and the young divine doctor of Chinese medicine in China, I'm Tanxio, and my real identity is a cultivator. Chapter 1250. The winner is king, and the loser is nothing but a bandit. King Yama held this sentence in high esteem, and even regarded it as his motto for the rest of his life. In the face of Tanxio's soaring arrogance, his killing intent skyrocketed even though he was a bit afraid. How many gambles could there be in life? He decided to take a gamble. Instead of fleeing back to the 9 nether underworld, he might as well fight to his heart's content. Even if all his subordinates were to die in the end, he was confident that he could keep his life. He took out a pair of pitch-black boxing gloves and put them on his hands. A soft sword was then drawn from his waist. As the sword flashed, it eventually became as hard as iron, straight and sharp. Tanxio. King Yama took a deep breath. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes as he said in a deep voice, let's meet on the 9th hidden island 3 days later. I really want to see how strong the emperor of the great Tang Empire is. There's no time like the present. Tanxio chuckled and said, since you want to see my strength, why wait for 3 days? Why don't I break the remaining 2 formations, and then we can have some fun on the sea? It's not convenient today, said King Yama coldly. I need to adjust my strength to its peak state. If you choose to attack my Yama Island, I can only retreat with all my subordinates and fight my way back to this world in the future. This world, or rather China, you can protect it now, but what about thousands of years later? Do you still have the ability to protect it? Thousands of years later? Tanxio was shocked inwardly. He understood that King Yama's words made sense. He would leave Earth in 2 years and go to the immortal world to fight. How could there be thousands of years later? If he really retreated, it would undoubtedly be like nurturing a tiger and inviting calamity, leaving a malignant tumor for humanity on Earth. He weighed the pros and cons inwardly. In the end, Tanxio nodded slowly and said, since you chose to meet me on the 9th hidden island 3 days later, then I'll promise you. But if I don't see you on the 9th hidden island 3 days later, don't blame me for using all my strength to kill you even if I have to chase you to the 9 nether underworld. A look of disdain flashed across Hades' eyes. How could it be so easy to enter the 9 nether yellow springs? If it was a ghost cultivator, it would be fine. However, if it was a cultivator who cultivated other types of powers, once they entered the 9 nether springs, they would lose the supply of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. At that time, the amount of power they consumed would decrease a little. After entering the 9 nether yellow springs, even an immortal would not be able to kill him in an instant. As long as he was given a chance to escape, he would have a chance to turn the tables. It's a pity that there is no death chi of the underworld on Earth. Otherwise, I would be able to restore my strength to its peak. At that time, I would even be able to kill experts at the crossing calamity stage. King Yama felt some regret in his heart. Looking at Tan Xiu's departing figure, a helpless and bitter smile appeared on his bewitching face. Blue sky, white clouds, thousands of miles of clear sky. As Tan Xiu and Xueyu walked side by side, a thoughtful look appeared on his handsome face. Anyone with a bit of brains would be able to realize that the King of Hell might have some unexpected means up his sleeves. However, Tan Xiu really had no way of guessing what that method was. Have you really made up your mind? Xueyu's eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor as they kept lingering on Tan Xiu's face. Her voice was very pleasant to listen to, but there was also a bit of doubt in it. King Yama is right. If he immediately returns to the 9 Nether Yellow Springs with his subordinates and destroys the road leading to the 9 Nether Yellow Springs in this world, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to get rid of him again, said Tan Xiu. If he comes out of the 9 Nether Yellow Springs again after we leave, I'm afraid he'll retaliate crazily. Therefore, anyone who has any connection with me will likely become the target of his revenge. I can even guess that this kind of revenge will be more terrifying than the 9 clan extermination. But he chose the time and the place, said Xueyu. What if he sets up a trap on the 9th hidden island in advance? Do we have to jump into it? Well, the only thing we can do now is to deal with each move as it comes. Tan Xiu forced a smile. Don't worry, I'll send Yan, to take charge when the time comes. Even if King Yama has any conspiracy, he won't harm a golden immortal. I think it's a good idea, said Xueyu suddenly. But Gu Yan is bound by the heavenly Tao rules of this world. Once she uses her power exceeding that of an immortal, she'll be discovered by the heavenly Tao of this world. If by any chance, Tan Xiu took a deep breath and suddenly said, then let Ji Qimei come here. I have a plan to let her return to the immortal world first. A year in our world is only 100 years in the immortal world. Ji Qimei will go there 2 years in advance, so she'll only wait for 200 years in the immortal world at most. Letting her go back ahead of time is also a vanguard for us. Will Ji Qimei agree? Asked Xueyu with a frown. She will, answered Tan Xiu. 3 days later, Tan Xiu personally commanded the 4 major legions to occupy the southern part of the 9th hidden island, quietly waiting for the arrival of the Dark Wind. Tan Xiu was well aware that today's battle would be his last on Earth. After this battle, he would be able to spend 2 years in peace and stability, and then head to the immortal world when everything was ready. Ji Qimei had arrived 3 days ago after receiving Tan Xiu's order. When Tan Xiu told her about his plan, she agreed without hesitation. In fact, she was well aware of the current situation in the immortal world. If the Great Tang Empire's hundreds of thousands of troops were to encounter a mortal enemy as soon as they arrived in the immortal world in the future, they would be in big trouble. They're here, master. Tang Along stepped on a frisbee and quickly appeared in front of Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu narrowed his eyes and asked, how many people are coming? According to our observation, the vanguard should be about 5,000 people, said Tang Along. According to the intel, these 5,000 people should be the Darkwind's experts from all over the world who were summoned by King Yama. There are also about 2,000 people behind them. Tan Xiu narrowed his eyes and nodded. If my guess is correct, this should be all the forces of the Darkwind. Have you found King Yama yet? We haven't found him yet according to Black Snake's portrait. Tang Along shook his head. However, given his strength, it'll be difficult for us to find him if he wants to change his appearance and restrain his aura. That's right, Old Blind is here. She said she has something to tell you. Tan Xiu's expression shifted and he immediately ordered, bring her here. Old Blind had been staying on 9 Dragons Island, and only occasionally went to the pocket world to cultivate in seclusion. She almost didn't care about anything else. Now that she suddenly came here, it meant that she must have something important to tell him. After a while, Old Blind came to Tan Xiu and said, there's something wrong with this battle, Your Majesty. I peeped into the heavenly secrets and saw rivers of blood and corpses everywhere. Also, I saw the monstrous ghosts here, just like hell. It's just that I can't see the outcome of this battle because of your existence, so I can only rely on what I can see to speculate that the next battle will be very bad." Tan Xiu frowned and turned to look to the north. With his eyesight, he could already see the Darkwind's vanguard getting closer and closer. However, Ji Qimei had already come here. With her being a powerhouse comparable to an immortal, even if King Yama's power was monstrous, he wouldn't be able to stir up any waves, right? "Old Blind, I've already received your warning. I won't take this battle lightly. Don't worry." Tan Xiu was silent for a while before he nodded with a solemn expression. "How about I deal with the 5,000 vanguard soldiers?" Old Blind nodded. "I've been cultivating in seclusion all these years and have broken through to the Celestial Master stage. I'm only a step away from the Divine Master stage. I want to see what level my strength has reached now." Tan Xiu thought for a while and nodded. "Since you're willing to take action, then let's exercise our muscles and bones. You'll have the chance to fight when we get to the immortal world." Old Blind let out a faint smile, and her figure instantly flew to the north of the 9th hidden island. In nearly the blink of an eye, she had already appeared in front of the 5,000 Darkwind experts. She chanted an incantation that was filled with the vicissitudes of life and experience, and a transparent blade beam instantly swept toward the 5,000 people. Puff, puff, puff. With just one strike, only a dozen of the Darkwind's 5,000 vanguard soldiers soared into the sky from the crowd and escaped the violent strike. Even though the rest tried their best to evade, they were still slashed at the waist and directly obliterated. "She's so strong." Everyone present was amazed by the slash. Such power and violence were simply overwhelming. Despite being very strong, Shuiyu still didn't dare to say that she could achieve such a feat. Goddammit. King Yama, who was shrouded in a black robe, soared into the sky from the rear. He waved the staff in his hand and roared angrily. "I didn't expect you to turn out to be a bunch of despicable villains, Tan Xiu. We haven't even arrived at the 9th hidden island yet. Yet your men have already killed my men. You're simply shameless." Tan Xiu soared into the sky and sneered. "Your men have arrived, which means the war has already begun. In such a situation, it's either you die or I die. Don't tell me you want to have a cup of tea and chat with me after you arrived." King Yama glared at Tan Xiu and cast an incantation. Black smoke immediately rose around the 9th hidden island. In just a few breaths, the entire island was shrouded in black mist. "If that's the case, then let's kill them all. Your great Tang Empire may have a large army of cultivators, but I'm not a pushover either. Kill them all. Let's see how many ghouls you can kill, and how heavy your losses will be." King Yama roared angrily and waved the staff in his hand even faster. Tan Xiu's expression changed. He could keenly sense that the surrounding temperature had dropped by more than 10 degrees in just a short moment, and he could even smell the scent of ghouls. Chapter 1251. Wah! This portal really can lead to a new world. This place. Damned God. The air here is so wonderful, and this world is so beautiful. What am I seeing? Every single life, every single human body with flesh and blood. Ha ha ha. Is this the ranch of us vengeful spirits? Is this food really prepared for us? Human realm. This is actually the human realm. We've finally rushed out of that damn 9 nether springs. Brothers, kill. Occupy this world and destroy the damned humans. As long as we can draw the death energy of the 9 nether springs to this world, this will be our paradise. A few hundred years? A few thousand years? We've finally come out of the 9 nether springs. I want to kill. I really, really want to kill. Comrades, let's hunt for blood. There are countless lives here waiting for us to devour. I like this place and I like killing. I want to build my own ghost realm here. Kill them. Plumes of black smoke continuously rose from the ground. Following that, as the black smoke condensed, it eventually formed into ferocious-looking malicious spirits. At first, there weren't many vengeful spirits. But as time passed, tens of thousands of vengeful spirits rushed out of the 9 nether springs in just a few minutes. Tan Xiu finally knew what King Yama was up to, but he didn't expect that King Yama would dare to release vengeful spirits from the 9 nether springs to the human realm. Observe. Ponder. After a few minutes of silence, Tanxiu finally determined the strength of those vengeful spirits that rushed into the human realm. A ruthless look flashed across his face as he stood in the air, and quickly made a dozen hand gestures. Immediately, the soldiers of the 4 major armies on the flying discs began to move. Today, the soldiers of the Great Tang Empire will kill and exterminate these vengeful spirits. Tanxiu took out his divine sword, and a lightning-fast sword light instantly swept towards the vengeful spirits nearby. The 1,000-meter-long sword light instantly destroyed hundreds of vengeful spirits. Only a few powerful vengeful spirits escaped the range of the sword light with serious injuries. Kill! 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 War Dragon Army, War Tiger Army, War Phoenix Army, War Martial Army. Under the command of Tanxiu, the 4 legions launched fierce attacks on the malicious ghosts that appeared one after another in a well-organized battle formation. Not only Tanxiu, but Shuiyu Old Blind and Tang Guang, who was hiding in the dark with hundreds of members of the Kill Division, also began to slaughter the malicious ghosts. Thousands of meters away, a cold glint flashed in King Yama's eyes. With a wave of his arm, the experts of the Darkwind organization immediately rushed toward the Great Tang Empire's legion. Because Yama had injected death energy into these people, those vengeful ghosts stopped attacking the Darkwind people after discovering Yama. Tanxiu was killing people and ghosts at the same time. However, his attention was completely focused on King Yanluo. As the King of Hell got closer and closer, he slaughtered hundreds of evil ghosts with a single strike and instantly appeared in front of the King of Hell. Didn't you want to see my strength? This 9th hidden island is too fragile for us. Come to the sea surface. We won't have any problem even if we split a hole in the sky. Tanxiu stared at Yama and shouted in a deep voice. Yama narrowed his eyes and sensed the surging battle intent in Tanxiu. Then he said in a deep voice, Tanxiu, since your Great Tang Empire doesn't want to give the Darkwind a way out, then I'll drag you to hell with me. I'll kill you today. The black-gloved fist instantly turned into a huge fist shadow hundreds of meters long, and fiercely bombarded the front of Tanxiu. The netherworld artifact that had evolved from the flexible sword also turned into layers of sword shadows in an attempt to swallow Tanxiu. Great Ascension Stage? Tanxiu unleashed his full strength. The divine sword turned into a light dragon, and instantly swallowed the huge fist shadow and the layers of sword shadows. At the same time, he directly used the Devour Divine ability. The spiral airflow around him quickly turned into a tornado and completely dissolved Yama's attack. Then the attack instantly arrived in front of Yama. What the hell is this? Yama's expression changed greatly. Tanxiu hadn't exerted his full strength before, so he couldn't judge Tanxiu's strength. But at this moment he sensed that Tanxiu's strength was dozens of times stronger than his. He even judged that Tanxiu's cultivation was at the Crossing Tribulation stage. The Crossing Tribulation stage was the closest cultivator to becoming an immortal. Once a cultivator at the Crossing Tribulation stage could withstand the attack of the Immortal Tribulation, they would be able to transform and become a true immortal. Run. Yama had 2 great foundations and his attainments in arrays. But facing Tanxiu, he was ashamed of his inferiority. As for his strength, he could see the gap between him and Tanxiu. The battle had just begun. But he already knew that he was going to lose. Want to run? Come back. A cold glint flashed in Tanxiu's eyes. His Devour Divine ability was unleashed to the limit. Suddenly, thousands of ghosts around him were pulled over and slaughtered by Tanxiu using the Devour Divine ability. The ghost power scattered in all directions was also devoured by Tanxiu. Yama wanted to escape, but the huge suction force and the tornado forced him to keep retreating. In the end, he was getting closer and closer to Tanxiu. Impossible. You can't be that powerful. Damn it, those 3 old things on Earth. They were forced by me to swear a heavy oath that they would never interfere in the affairs of the world again. How did you do it? How did you become so powerful? Yama roared in anger, his voice full of disbelief. It wasn't his fault. Through his investigation of Tanxiu, he knew that more than 5 years ago, Tanxiu was just an ignorant child in Xingqing No. 1 high school. Even if more than 5 years had passed, and even if Tanxiu encountered a great opportunity, It was impossible for him to break through to the tribulation passing stage in such a short time. This was against common sense. This didn't conform to the rules of the heavenly Tao. Tanxiu sneered and said, "How can a frog at the bottom of a well understand my existence?" After that, he frantically extracted the chaotic force from the planets in the internal universe and exerted the devour divine ability even more violently. Yama's heart was beating wildly, and a sense of despair burst forth from the bottom of his heart. As a ruthless look flashed in his eyes, he suddenly stabbed his chest with his right hand. As blood spurted out from his heart, thick death chi erupted from his body. In the blink of an eye, his body had already changed. Spikes appeared on his shoulders, a sharp horn appeared on his forehead, his nose slightly enlarged and his mouth slightly curled up. Dense scales drilled out of his body, making him look like a monster. His aura also skyrocketed dozens of times in an instant, almost comparable to that of a tribulation passing stage powerhouse. However, he did not risk his life to fight with Tanxiu. Instead, he broke free from the suction force emitted from Tanxiu's body and shot into the distance in an extremely embarrassing manner. Obviously, he was running for his life. "Go back." An old figure appeared out of thin air and instantly blocked Yama's way. A swift and fierce kick directly landed on his face. As Yama's body flew backward, a divine sword pierced through his heart from the back. How is this possible? Yama's eyes revealed a look of disbelief, as if he had seen the most incredible thing in the world. Almost using the last of his strength, he roared, "Are you an immortal? Damn the rules of the heavenly way. How can an immortal appear in this world? This is impossible." Tanxiu instantly appeared behind Yama, with an evil smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. He laughed and said, "You think it's impossible because you're sitting in a hole and looking at the sky. You have too little knowledge. There is more than one immortal on this earth." After that, his fist landed on King Yama's head, killing him instantly. Suddenly, rolling thunder rumbled and dark clouds surged from all directions in the sky. Lightning flashed in the thick dark clouds and illuminated the whole world. Jichimei's old face revealed a bit of reluctance. She knelt on one knee in the void and placed her right fist on her left chest. Then she said in a deep voice, "As the great Tang Empire's vanguard, this subordinate will first go to the immortal world to investigate the situation. Your Majesty, we'll meet again in the immortal world 100 years later." A complicated expression appeared on Tanxiu's face as he slowly said, "This trip will be fraught with dangers, so safety is the most important. Take care, Jichimei." "Take care, Your Majesty." Jichimei nodded heavily. Then, an immortal sword appeared in her hand out of thin air. She waved her arm and a sword beam instantly cut through the sky. It tore a crack in the sky and then quickly plunged into the crack. It was very dangerous. Tanxiu's heart was as clear as a mirror. He knew very well that Jichimei would not appear in the receiving immortal pond when she returned to the immortal world. Instead, she would randomly appear anywhere in the immortal world. She might even appear in some dangerous places in the immortal world. After a while, the crack in the sky disappeared. Then, an invisible energy swept over Tanxiu and everyone on the battlefield below. Finally, a bolt of lightning struck down. The target was neither Tanxiu nor the soldiers of the great Tang Empire, but the tens of thousands of vengeful ghosts that came out from the 9 nether underworld. It was as though the end of the world had arrived. Tens of thousands of vengeful ghosts wailed and turned into black smoke before finally dissipating between heaven and earth. At this moment, Jichimei's roar resounded. Immediately afterward, a red light suddenly erupted from the direction of Yama Island, and the entire island disappeared under a terrifying aura. He knew that it was Jichimei who destroyed Yama Island before she left. She also destroyed the array on Yama Island. It was precisely because of this that the portal to the human world and the 9 nether underworld was also destroyed. He slightly bowed his head. Tanxiu looked down and immediately shouted, "Soldiers of the great Tang Empire, heed my order. Annihilate all the members of the Dark Wind. Kill." The soldiers of the 4 major legions once again slaughtered the few remaining members of the Dark Wind. Due to the huge disparity in strength, all the members of the Dark Wind were slaughtered in just 10 minutes, including Yama's 18 trusted subordinates. Return in triumph. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. He glanced at the 9th hidden island, which had been mostly destroyed, and then shouted in a deep voice. Chapter 1252. Time flew by and years passed by in a flash. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed in a hurry. The great Tang Empire, which had once set off a wave of terror on Earth, had destroyed the top 3 organizations in the world, destroyed House Dolan, and annihilated the Darkwind organization, had completely disappeared from everyone's world. However, no one dared to ignore this force, especially those people and forces with very high positions. They all chose to lie dormant in secret, quietly waiting for the next eruption of the great Tang Empire. The countdown began in 4 days. On the tarmac of the Shanghai airport, Li Laozhan leaned against a black Mercedes-Benz SUV and looked at Tan Xiu, who was coming down from the ladder with a smile on his face. It had been more than 3 years since he last saw Tan Xiu. During these 3 years, he often missed the days when he was with Tan Xiu. Their ages were different, but they were friends despite the great difference in age. Li Laozhan looked at Tan Xiu, who was getting closer and closer. He opened his arms and greeted him with a smile. I'm glad you can come back, big brother. But why didn't you shout at the top of your lungs when you walked out of the cabin door? Tan Xiu patted Li Laozhan's back. After letting go of his hand, he said with a smile. What did I shout for? Don't tell me you want to shout. I Huhan-san am back? Ha ha ha. Old brother fatty, your tonnage is even higher than before. Li Laozhan blushed with shame and rolled his eyes at Tan Xiu. He snappily scolded with a smile. You're really touching my sore spot, brat. However, I was really overjoyed when I received your call yesterday. You heartless little brat, you finally remembered this old brother of yours. Tell me, you won't leave again after coming back this time, right? Tan Xiu put away his smile and said, I'll be back today and leave the day after tomorrow. This should be the last time we brothers see each other. What do you mean? The smile on Li Laozhan's face froze as he stared at Tan Xiu and asked. Tan Xiu didn't explain. Instead, he said, Brotherly, how about you drive and I sit in the front passenger seat? After pondering for a moment, Li Laozhan spoke to the driver not far away and immediately sat in the driver's seat. As Tan Xiu got in the car, Li Laozhan immediately started the car and drove out of the airport. He was only able to drive his car into the airport because of Tan Xiu's name. After the car drove out of the airport, Li Laozhan said with all seriousness, Brother Tang, I know your character very well. You absolutely won't talk nonsense for no reason. Tell me, where are you going? Tan Xiu pointed his finger to the top and calmly said, I taught you a cultivation technique in the past, so you should have gained some cultivation experience in the past few years. People strive for higher places and water flows to lower places. I'll be able to break the shackles of this world soon, so there's no point in staying. Before I leave, I need to see some of my former brothers. Li Laozhan was silent. He had indeed stepped into the ranks of cultivators, and could be regarded as a cultivator. After all, he also had the strength of a foundation establishment stage cultivator after several years of cultivation. He knew that Tan Xiu was about to ascend to become an immortal. But when he thought about his own cultivation aptitude, he knew that it was impossible for him to cultivate to that level and ascend to become an immortal. It was impossible for him to go to the immortal world to see Tan Xiu. At this moment, perhaps, as Tan Xiu said, this would be the last time the 2 brothers would see each other in their lives. Evening. The 2 of them got drunk in the paradise manner. As Li Laozhan was carried away by his bodyguards to rest, Tan Xiu didn't deliberately force out the alcohol in his body. He took a comfortable bath and washed away the reluctance in his body. Then he changed his clothes and drove back to the Blue Star Villa complex. At this moment, inside Tan Xiu's villa in the Blue Star Villa complex, a group of young people gathered together. Some of them didn't know each other, but some were very familiar with each other. But because of their relationship with Tan Xiu, their communication was very harmonious. Why hasn't eldest brother come back yet? The food sent by the everlasting feast hall will be cold soon. Long Zhenglin raised his hand to touch his bald head. His burly body stood at the door, and his eyes kept sweeping outside. Yuan Chuling, who had put on weight recently, hugged a girl with a delicate face and a hot figure in his arms. He extinguished the cigarette in his hand and smilingly said, Long Zhenglin, eldest brother said he'll come back, so he'll definitely come back. I haven't seen him for so many years, and I've been thinking about him for so many years. But I don't care about such a short time. Long Zhenglin rolled his eyes and said with a strange smile, Just think about eldest brother. Won't the belle in your arms be jealous? I'm not jealous. The hot girl raised her chin and smilingly said. A gentle and quiet girl beside him suddenly said, I think she'll be jealous. Some men care more about their brothers than they care about women. I'm quite jealous. Ha ha ha. Everyone in the room suddenly burst into laughter. At this time, aside from Long Zhenglin, Yuan Zhengxian and Yu Kai, there were also Hu Qingsong, Zhao Liang, Xuechao, Long Zhengyu, Jimu, Bai Tao, Huangsu, Feishan, Qin Xiaoyang, and some others in the living room. Aside from these big men, there were also 6 girls, female companions brought by some of them. They were also their girlfriends or wives. Suddenly, at the door Long Zhenglin's eyes lit up. He dashed toward the door and shouted, Eldest brother, you're back. Just as Tan Xiu entered the courtyard, he saw Long Zhenglin dashing toward him. He smiled and opened his arms to give him a big hug. After letting go, he saw his former brothers rushing out of the villa's entrance. They were laughing and frolicking. A group of young men in their 20s stayed in the courtyard for a long time. When they returned to the villa's hall, Tan Xiu's eyes swept over the 6 girls. After hearing Long Zhengyu's introduction, he directly took out 6 jade pendants from his interspatial ring and handed them to the 6 girls, saying, Sisters-in-law, sisters-in-law, I've seen some of you, but I haven't seen some of you. But since you can come together with this brother of Tan Xiu, I sincerely wish you all the best. This is a greeting gift. I hope you like it. The 6 girls knew Tan Xiu's identity, so they didn't refuse and thanked him one after another after receiving it. The hot girl even praised, Eldest brother, Yuan Chuling has been talking about you all day long. Seeing is really better than hearing 100 times. I'm really happy that my old Yuan has a brother like you. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile, and then said with a serious expression, Sisters-in-law, sisters-in-law, I didn't expect that my brothers would bring you here. Since we've already met, how about I invite you to Paradise Manor to play? Someone will arrange it there. What do you mean? The hot girl stared blankly and subconsciously turned to look at Yuan Chuling. At this moment, the dozens of young men in the room also looked confused and looked at Tan Xiu with puzzlement. They knew Tan Xiu and could naturally understand Tan Xiu's meaning. He wanted these women to leave. What are you doing, eldest brother? Asked Yuan Chuling with a frown. Tan Xiu ignored Yuan Chuling and smilingly looked at the door instead, saying, Tang 28. Send someone to prepare a car and send them to the Paradise Club. Do remember to tell the general manager there to entertain them with good food and drinks, and try to satisfy any of their requests. Understood. Tang 28 flashed in from the door and looked at the 6 girls, saying, Please everyone. Finally, the 6 girls followed Tang 28 and left. Tan Xiu turned his head and glanced at everyone's face. He then shouted, Someone move the dining table out of the dining room. Immediately, 4 teenagers around 12 or 13 years old appeared from the door. After they rushed into the dining room, they quickly moved the dining table and chairs to the living room. The tea table that was originally placed in the living room was moved away, leaving only some sofas outside. Long Zhengyu frowned and asked with a puzzled expression, What's wrong with you, Tan Xiu? Tan Xiu didn't speak. He waved his hand and 10 boxes of God's nectar appeared on the dining table. Then he quickly tore the wine boxes and took out the bottles of God's nectar inside. A total of 60 bottles of God's nectar appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Tan Xiu moved his fingers, and the 60 bottles of God's nectar were suddenly uncapped. At this time, Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, Brothers, I'll drink these 3 bottles of God's and Immortal's nectar first. After saying that, Tan Xiu drank 3 bottles of God's nectar in one breath. The moment everyone was moved, Tan Xiu wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth and said in a deep voice, I, Tan Xiu, have a bad temperament, so it's hard for me to make sincere friends. But I'm very lucky to finally get to know you. Don't say that, Tan Xiu, said Long Zhengyu. You're a sentimental and righteous person, Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt Long Zhengyu. He took a deep breath and said, "Listen to me first. I, Tan Xiu, have always been cautious in making friends with my brothers because the betrayal has always been a pain in my heart. But I recognize you from the bottom of my heart. You are Tan Xiu's brothers. Brother, you don't have to say it out loud. Just put it in your heart. From today onward, I'll keep each and every one of you in my heart. Even if today is the last time we meet, I'll never forget you." After saying that, Tan Xiu took out a few cigarettes, opened them, took one out and lit it up. He took a few deep breaths and exhaled the smoke. Then he slowly said, "I'm leaving. This farewell may be forever." Long Jingyu strode to the front of Tan Xiu and stared at Tan Xiu. Then he said in a deep voice, "The means of transportation are very developed nowadays. No matter which corner of the world you're in, we can find you as long as we think of you. So don't make it sound like we're parting by life and death. We're brothers for life." "I believe your last sentence." Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "But the place I'm going is not in any corner of this earth. I'm a cultivator. You may have noticed something unusual about me or heard about my identity as a cultivator after getting along with me. I have my own path to walk, and you also have your own lives to live. Although I really hope to have you brothers by my side, you still have to rely on yourself to walk your own path." "Where exactly are you going?" asked Long Zhengyu in a deep voice. "The Immortal World." Chapter 1253. Tan Xiu seriously said, "Don't think that fairy tales are deceiving. Many of them are actually true. Even if it's groundless, there will always be some clues. The place I'm going to is the Immortal World, a world that looks very beautiful on the surface, but is actually more cruel than hell." Long Zhenglin came over and asked in disbelief, "The Immortal World really exists? How is that possible? I've never heard of the existence of real immortals." "It's true," said Tan Xiu. For a moment, everyone fell into silence. After a long while, Xueqiao looked up at Tan Xiu with red eyes and asked in a deep voice, "Big Bro Tang, can you take me with you? I'm willing to go with you no matter how cruel it is." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "I've thought about it many times before. I wanted to impart my cultivation technique to you, so that you can go with me to the Immortal World in the future. But after careful consideration, I chose to give up in the end. You all have your own lives, and you also have your friends and family. Your world is here. If I take you with me, what will happen to your family? What about your friends?" "Big Bro Tang, my mother has passed away. My wife and son are by my side. There are only the three of us. If you can, I hope you can take us with you. Apart from a few brothers, I have no one else worthy of nostalgia." Long Zhenglin suddenly turned to look at Long Zhengyu. He grabbed a bottle of wine from the table and said with an extremely serious expression, "Brother, although I'm reluctant to part with you, I also want to leave with eldest brother. I'm unfilial, so please help me be filial to my parents." Long Jingyu's complexion changed. "Brother, you know my temperament. I'm someone who can't sit still," said Long Zhenglin seriously. "Without eldest brother Tang, I'm afraid that I'll be living a muddle-headed life in the future. I like adventure, I like excitement, and I want to walk the path I choose. Brother, I was just a gangster before I met eldest brother. Ever since I met him, he changed my mind and changed the trajectory of my life. Otherwise, I'd still be a second-generation silk pants in the streets and alleys of Star City." Long Zhengyu's lips squirmed a few times before he finally asked in a deep voice, "Have you really thought it through?" Long Zhenglin heavily nodded and said, "Only by following eldest brother can I live a more and more wonderful life. If I follow boss, I won't take any detours. Brother, although the time was short, I've thought it through." Long Zhengyu also grabbed a wine bottle and forcefully bumped the bottle in Long Zhenglin's hand. Then he gulped down the entire bottle of wine in one gulp and said with a red face, "Big brother, I respect your choice. From today onwards, the second son of the Long family will die in this world, and will only live in our hearts." "Brother." Long Zhenglin's eyes turned red. He gritted his teeth and gulped down a bottle of wine. Then he turned his head and stared at Tan Xiu saying, "Eldest brother, do you want me?" Tanxiu slowly closed his eyes. After a long silence, he suddenly opened his eyes and said, "All right. You, Long Zhenglin, and Xuechao's family of 3 can follow me to the immortal world. But in the immortal world, all of you must listen to me. Otherwise, I will kill all of you with my own hands before anyone else can kill you. Otherwise, you won't be able to see your familiar relatives when you die. I promise. I promise." Long Zhenglin and Xuechao shouted in unison. Tanxiu's eyes slowly swept over the others' faces. Looking at their hesitant expressions, he then said in a deep voice, "The rest of you, don't mention this matter to me again. Before I leave, I'll teach you a set of cultivation technique, so that you can also become cultivators. If you have great achievements in the future, you can come to the immortal world to find me. But if you can't, then we'll live in each other's hearts. The reason why I called all of you here today is that I want to get drunk with you and drink to my heart's content. All of you, would you like to accompany me to get drunk?" The eyes of more than a dozen people were a bit red. Long Zhengyu was the oldest, so he grabbed the wine bottle again and shouted in a deep voice, "Let's drink and see off, brother. Let's drink. Drink." This night, more than a dozen people were drunk. Even Tanxiu, who didn't deliberately force out the alcohol, was drunk and fell on the sofa. The next morning, after Tanxiu woke up from his sleep, a warm smile immediately appeared on his face as he looked at the group of people who were swaying left and right. Tanxiu went to the second floor to take a shower and change his clothes. Then he began to arrange an array. At noon, when everyone woke up from their drunken stupor, Tanxiu then began to teach them cultivation techniques. Medicinal pills, body refining liquid, array blessings. Various effects were applied at the same time, eventually helping them to step into the ranks of cultivators. Although they had just started to feel the qi and were barely able to control it. Early the next morning, everyone except Long Zhengyu had already left. In the study room on the second floor, Tanxiu took out an interspatial ring and handed it to Long Zhengyu, saying, "Zhengyu, you're the oldest among them and the most mature and steady one. Furthermore, you're someone who values friendship and righteousness, worthy of my trust. Take this interspatial ring and bind it with your blood. Then it's completely yours." Long Zhengyu followed Tanxiu's instructions and took the interspatial ring. Then he asked, "There are a lot of things inside." "They're cultivation resources," said Tanxiu. "I've put enough medicinal pills inside for you to cultivate for 100 years. Each pill is recorded in a booklet, including the effects, the best time to take them, and the best time to take them. Additionally, I've also put 4 books inside. One is an ancient book on arrays, one on alchemy, one on refining, and the last one is a record of resources. You'll have these things together after I leave. Pay more attention to them and help them. I hope I can wait for you in the immortal world in the future." Long Zhengyu's heart was filled with warmth and he nodded repeatedly. "I, Long Zhengyu, swear that I'll never take these things for myself, nor will I leave them alone. Trust me, I'll do my best in the future to take them to the immortal world to find you." Tanxiu patted his shoulder and said, "Remember my words. If you want to cultivate to a very high level, you'll need a huge amount of cultivation resources to assist you. There are 2 islands in the South China Sea. You'll take your confidants there later. One of them is for breeding fierce beasts, while the other is for planting medicinal herbs. Don't open the island for breeding fierce beasts before you break through to the golden core stage. But you can rest assured about the island for planting medicinal herbs. Also, you'll need a lot of money as your backing if you want to have resources and cultivate faster. I'll give each of them 2% of the magnificent Tang Corporation's shares, and give you 20% of the shares. Someone will find you later and sign the contract with you. There are a lot of contracts you need to sign, but you'll know about it later. You're very familiar with 9 Dragons Island, so I hope you can take it as your base camp. I hope you can take it when you can break the array around 9 Dragons Island. At that time, I'll put the island transfer documents in the palace on 9 Dragons Island. There's a pocket world in the Longquan Mountain in the west. I've sent some people to seal the entrance to that pocket world a few days ago. You must defeat me. Only when your cultivation breaks through to the nascent soul stage can you take your people to that pocket world. Otherwise, all of you will die inside." There's a natural feng shui array in the mountain behind my hometown, the Su family village. There's a spirit vein spring inside. Although my people have been using it all these years, the spiritual energy of the earth vein inside hasn't been completely used up. If you want to break through to the golden core stage and the nascent soul stage as soon as possible, take some time to go there and cultivate in seclusion after you've studied the array ancient book I've left for you. Tan Xiao explained a lot of things in one breath, while Long Jingyu directly picked up a pen and paper and recorded everything Tan Xiao said. Anything else? Long Jingyu's heart was filled with warmth, yet his expression was very serious. Tan Xiao took out a cigarette and lit it. He was silent for a minute before he slowly looked up and said, "There's one more thing I think it's necessary to tell you. The Chinese government has established a secret base in the Taklamakan Desert for 3 years. The research and manufacture in that secret base are all high-tech weapons. I'm the one who gave them all those weapons, which are also the technological power of a high-level civilization in the universe. If my guess is correct, interstellar battleships will be produced there in a few years at most. By then, humans will be able to step out of Earth and set foot on the Milky Way galaxy. The world structure will definitely change in the future, so you must be very careful. Don't trust anyone except yourself unless it's a last resort." "Could it be that Wuxia will be able to rule Earth by then?" asked Long Jingyu in amazement. "I don't know the specific direction of the situation in the future, either," said Tan Xiao. "But you must remember not to go against the Chinese government. You can choose to leave if they want to trouble you. Also, I need you to do something for me." "What is it?" asked Long Jingyu. "The director of Huaxia's Special Abilities Bureau, Duan Mulin, is more loyal to the country than anything else," said Tan Xiao. "This is a good thing, but you must not have too many dealings with him. Remember to guard against him and keep an eye on him. Don't easily expose your identity as a cultivator. Else, it's very likely that he will make you risk your life for him at many times and in many ways. The most important thing for you is to cultivate and improve your strength." "You haven't told me what you want me to do for you," said Long Jingyu with a frown. "Help me keep an eye on some families, such as the Oyangs in Jingmen Island, the Mu family in the imperial capital, and—" Tan Xiao said. Long Jingyu interrupted Tan Xiao and nodded seriously. "I got it. I'll help you take care of any families or people who have a special relationship with you in secret." Chapter 1254. Tan Xiao patted Long Jingyu's shoulder. After taking a deep puff of the cigarette, he exhaled the smoke and said, if someone wants to deal with you, even if it's Duan Mulin, you can find 2 people. They will definitely help you. This is the last card I've left for you." "Who?" Long Jingyu's expression moved and hurriedly asked. "Miao Wentong Xiaomingzhen," said Tan Xiao. Long Jingyu nodded heavily and said, "I'll remember your words." Tan Xiao lit a cigarette and then got up saying, "Take care, brother. I've arranged a concealment array in this study room. If you can find it and open it, there are a lot of things I have to tell you, including the distribution of the magnificent Tang Corporation's shares, the ownership of my everlasting feast hall, and in short a lot. I'll hand these over to you later. I'll never fail my mission." Long Jingyu nodded and hugged Tan Xiao again. Then he turned around and left. Tan Xiao's figure flashed and blocked Long Jingyu's figure. With his back facing him, he said, "This villa is yours from now on. The documents have been handled in advance and are in this study room. You just need to sign them. You gave me the King's View building in Southgate Town. Now this brother can give you everything in these documents. I'm leaving." After a long time, Long Jingyu was still staring at the door where Tan Xiao disappeared. Finally, he sighed faintly and turned around to glance around. Finally, he came to the desk and picked up the dozens of folders on it. Southgate Town, Imperial Capital, Tang family's ancestral residence, Blue Star Villa Complex, Star City's Walled Hill Village Estate. Long Jingyu quietly read the dozens of folders. His eyes turned red and sparkling with tears. Only at this moment did he realize how much Tan Xiao valued him, and how much he trusted him. "My life. You've saved it. I'm this person. I'll be your brother forever." Long Jingyu took a deep breath. Just as he was about to turn around and walk out of the study, he suddenly noticed a video recorder in the corner of the wall. Moreover, the video recorder was still in its active state. After a while, only then did Long Jingyu realize that everything Tang Xiu had told him before had been recorded. Tang Xiu, brother, I understand. Long Jingyu walked to the window and looked at the world outside, where Tang Xiu had long disappeared, and muttered to himself. On an island in the South China Sea, a total of 215,400 people stood up straight, their gazes fixed on the dark sky. Rolling thunder, thick dark clouds, and bolts of lightning made this part of the world seem like the end of the world. As Tan Xiu and Gu Yan hovered in the air and slowly lowered their heads, Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said, Yener, let's find the remaining zodiac jade carvings. Once all the 12 zodiac jade carvings are gathered, I can activate the array and send us all to the immortal world. Before we leave, we need to see 3 people, said Gu Yaner. Tan Xiu's expression shifted. He recalled the time when he was in Japan and the 3 spiritual consciousnesses that came from all over the world. Immediately, his gaze shifted to the northwest. However, the first thing that appeared in front of Tan Xiu, Gu Yaner, and more than 200,000 people of the Great Tang Empire were 9 beautiful women in white dresses flying in the air. They were like fairies from the 9th heaven, and appeared on the isolated island almost instantly. Sister Zhongling, my heart is beating very fast. It should be here. Sister Zhongling, my head hurts a little. It feels like something is going to drill out of my brain. I feel terrible. 8 of the girls' eyes seemed to contain stars as they constantly glanced at everyone. Although they could see Tan Xiu and Gu Yan are standing hundreds of meters in the air, they couldn't see their faces clearly. It was as if there was a distorted space in front of them that covered their faces. In the middle, Zhongling, who was wearing a white dress and hovering in the air, also felt a kind of uncomfortable torment. Even the blood in her body had begun to churn constantly. Whoosh! A lightning-fast figure instantly appeared in front of the 9 women. Gu Yaner frowned slightly. A strange look flashed in her eyes as she asked, Who are you? The 9 women looked at each other with vigilance in their eyes. At this moment, they clearly saw Gu Yaner's appearance, but it was also at this moment that they felt even more uncomfortable. They felt that the woman in front of them was very familiar, but there were also many unfamiliar feelings in this familiarity. I'm Zhongling. Who are you? Zhongling took a step forward and asked in a deep voice. Gu Yaner answered Gu Yan. Boom! A bright light tore the darkness in Zhongling's sea of consciousness. In just a flash, Zhongling's eyes were filled with disbelief as she hurriedly called out, Your little Yener? Little Yener? What a familiar title. Gu Yaner recalled the days when she accompanied her master in the immortal world. Didn't many people call her that? Suddenly, a cold light flashed in Gu Yaner's eyes as she shouted in a deep voice, Who the hell are you? Zhongling covered her head with both hands. Her body swayed in the air. Her brows were tightly furrowed as she shook her head in pain. I can't remember. I still can't remember. Why is this happening? What is our mission? Who are we looking for? At this moment, Tan Xiu floated in the air. He looked at the 9 women in front of him and slowly said, You don't know anything. How did you come here? His voice caught the attention of the 9 women. When they looked up one after another, and their eyes fell on Tan Xiu's face, they were suddenly shocked and a bright light burst out from their eyes. Buzz, 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 terrifying auras erupted from the 9 women. These 9 auras fused into one, and instantly made them let out sharp roars. Their voices soared to the sky along with their auras. A glittering golden seal, word appeared in the dark sky. Immediately after that, the seal, word became fragmented and the auras of the 9 women began to rise crazily. In just half a minute, their auras had become so powerful that Tan Xiu and Gu Yaner were shocked. Celestial immortals? Gu Yaner's lips squirmed a few times. Killing intent instantly filled her eyes. If it weren't for the fact that these 9 women didn't show any killing intent, she would have unlocked her seal and killed them. Tan Xiu stared blankly at the 9 women with disbelief in his eyes. His lips were slightly parted and his voice was a bit trembling as it passed into the 9 women's ears. Immortal sealing restriction? Sealing the immortal soul and destroying the 5 senses and 5 senses for reincarnation. and following the heavens' mandate. Could it be the rebirth restriction among the immortal sealing restriction? Gu Yan'er turned her head and asked, "What's this immortal sealing restriction, master? What's the rebirth restriction?" Tan Xiao took a deep breath and looked at the 9 women in front of him with a complicated expression. He slowly said, "The immortal sealing restriction is a forbidden technique I created. It's a type of secret divine technique. Only under certain special circumstances would someone use this forbidden technique, because once it was used, it would cause great harm to oneself. As for the rebirth restriction, it's the most harmful one among the immortal sealing restrictions. After using it, you can indeed find the person who has placed the restriction on them, and then follow the trajectory of their life to the place where they are. Let me give you an example. If the other party is an immortal at the golden immortal stage, their cultivation will definitely drop by 3 levels once they use the rebirth restriction. No matter how they cultivate in the future, they won't be able to advance even half a step." "You mean they were once perfected golden immortals?" asked Gu Yan'er in amazement. "If they really used the rebirth restriction of the immortal sealing restriction, I'm afraid they were once perfected golden immortals given their current celestial immortal cultivation." Tan Xiao forced a smile. In the sky, tribulation clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. The moment Tang Xiao's voice faded away, the 9 women, including Zhongling, finally stopped trembling. 2 lines of tears rolled down their cheeks as they knelt in the air and wept at Tang Xiao under the watchful eyes of the public. "Master!" Tan Xiao was stunned. "Master?" Countless people used to call him that because he used to have hundreds of thousands of attendants. Most of them were golden immortals, but there were also hundreds of them who were perfected golden immortals. Could it be? Are they the 9 among those hundreds of people? Zhongling wept and whimpered. "I'm Xianling, master. She used to be your personal maid." "Xianling?" Tan Xiao's body trembled and he instantly dashed to Zhongling. After pulling her up, he carefully observed her face. Although her appearance had changed, Tan Xiao could see the familiar look in her eyes when she looked at him. That's right. It was Zhongling, the maid who had followed him for thousands of years and served him. Tan Xiao's lips squirmed a few times and his heart was secretly sour. He used to have a large number of maids, but only 9 of them were perfected golden immortals. The reason why they could become perfected golden immortals was partly because of his guidance and teaching, and partly because Xue Qingcheng often gave them cultivation resources. Zhongling wept and whimpered. "Master, we heard that you failed to cross the tribulation and turned into ashes. We didn't believe it, so we found the ancient book of the immortal sealing restriction in the secret vault. Because you used a forbidden technique on me before, we came here. We didn't have the memory of the immortal world before, so we forgot who you are. Fortunately, we saw you and the seal in our bodies was broken, reminding us of the past. Master, we have been looking for you for a long time." Tan Xiao's body trembled slightly. He could imagine how much courage it took for the 9 women to make up their minds to use the immortal sealing restriction. Later, they would never be able to return to the perfected golden immortal realm, and they would never be able to become stronger. It was like an unbreakable curse that made them see the end of their future. "Are you worth it?" Tan Xiao's eyes swept across the faces of the 9 women and murmured. Chapter 1255. Zhongling stopped crying and resolutely said, "You saved our lives back then. We were able to become perfected golden immortals because of your cultivation. We were able to live peacefully for thousands of years because of your protection. Since your disappearance, the divine residence has been destroyed, and more than half of the millions of attendants have been slaughtered. All those who were loyal to you have either been killed or sent to the Black Whale Star region to work as absentee laborers. They have been tortured day and night. The 9 of us suffered heavy injuries and hid in the world of the Lotus, struggling at death's door. It was not until the dust settled and the immortal abode was reduced to ruins that we used the immortal sealing restriction to enter the 6 paths of reincarnation. We attacked the 6 paths of reincarnation, and reversed the mirror of time to search for the trace of connection with you, and reincarnated into this world. Fortunately, Grandma came to our rescue and hid us in the formation, allowing us to escape the pursuit of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Tan Xiao gently patted Zhongling's shoulder and asked, "Who is this grandma you mentioned?" Zhongling said, "She is." Swoosh, a lightning-fast figure streaked across the sky and appeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. After seeing the scene in front of her, the old lady's complexion greatly changed, especially when her eyes fell on Tang Xiao. She couldn't help but shiver a few times. Tribulation stage? Her voice was filled with disbelief. Grandma. Zhongling and the others bowed slightly. Even though their true age was more than 10 times that of the old lady, they still revealed grateful expressions and spoke in unison. Tan Xiao's eyes also fell on the old lady in sackcloth. He slightly nodded and said, "I'm Tan Xiao. Greetings, fellow Taoist. I once had a feeling that there was a monstrous expert in our Wuxia kingdom. I am truly fortunate to be able to meet him today. Thank you for saving my 9 subordinates." The old woman took a deep breath and stabilized her surging emotions. She nodded and said, "Being able to meet them is our fate. Saving them was also a coincidence, so you don't need to thank me, Taoist friend. It's just that I didn't expect you to be so different from how you were 3 years ago. I didn't expect to see so many martial cultivators here." Tan Xiao smiled faintly and said, "Fellow Taoist, as the saying goes, a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Now that 3 years had passed, who wouldn't have made some progress? As for people like us, we will not belong here in the future. Fellow Taoist, if I'm not mistaken, you should have grasped the way to go to the immortal world, right? I wonder if you can take me with you?" "To tell you the truth, we are indeed going to the immortal world," said Tan Xiao. "However, I can't take you with me to the immortal realm because there's a high chance that we'll die. According to Senior's cultivation, it shouldn't take long for you to ascend to the immortal realm." A look of disappointment flashed in the old lady's eyes, but she still nodded and said, "If that's the case, then I won't force you." Tan Xiao smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist protected my 9 subordinates, so I, Tan Xiao, owe you a favor. If fellow Taoist has any other needs, you can tell me now." The old lady thought for a while and said, "Then help me get rid of those 2 annoying fellows. If I'm not wrong, they should be here soon." "All right." Tan Xiao readily agreed. A minute later, 2 old men came from 2 different directions. Before they arrived, their wild laughter could be heard. "There's a heaven and earth anomaly. Someone is crossing the tribulation. Let's join in the fun on the day of the immortal tribulation and go to the immortal world with them. Ha ha ha. That old thing from Wuxia. I didn't expect her to be 1 step faster than us. If she's willing to take us to the immortal world, it'll be great if we can absorb some of her immortal chi. If she doesn't want to, then we'll destroy her crossing period and let her be killed by the immortal tribulation." As soon as his voice faded away, the 2 old men had already appeared in the sky above the island. The smiles on their faces suddenly froze when they saw the scene in front of them. They could feel the overwhelming killing intent directly locking their bodies, as if they would suffer tens of thousands of terrifying attacks if they made any move. Experts. All of them were experts. There were more than 200,000 of them. The 2 old men exchanged glances and nearly cried. Despite their monstrous strength, they were still shocked by the scene and felt their hearts palpitating with fear and trepidation. Tan Xiao turned to look at Gu Yan, and smilingly said, "Ji Qime did a lot of things when she left early. Since we're leaving, you should also kill these 2 little guys along the way." "Little guys?" The address made the 2 old men stare with wide eyes. Suddenly, Zhongling stepped forward a few steps and saluted. "Let us do it, master. We've just regained our memories, so let's move our muscles and do something for you, master." Tan Xiao and Gu Yanner exchanged glances. He then nodded and smilingly said, "Since you want to move your muscles and bones, then do it. Yanner, give them swords." Gu Yanner faintly smiled and threw out 9 immortal swords. She then said, "9 big sisters, Yanner has been taken care of by you since she was a child. I'm very happy to meet you again now. These 9 immortal swords are defective. Yanner will definitely give each of you a top-grade immortal sword when we arrive in the immortal world. But for now, you can use these defective swords." "Thank you, little Yan." The 9 women faintly smiled. After receiving the immortal swords, they quickly forced out their blood essence and refined the 9 immortal swords. Then they instantly unleashed the immortal swords to form a sword array. They used to be maids, but they had also experienced fighting and killing. This sword array was taught to them by Tang Xiu when he had nothing to do in his spare time. After thousands of years of practice, coupled with the cooperation of the 9 of them, they could still easily kill profound immortals, even if their strength had plummeted. We don't have any malicious intent. The 2 old men's expressions changed drastically. One of them hurriedly waved his hand and shouted. The 9 women seemed to have not heard it, and formed a terrifying killing move that instantly enveloped the 2 old men. In almost an instant, the 2 of them died and their souls scattered. Please leave, fellow Taoist. Tan Xiu looked at the old woman and said. The old woman sighed inwardly when she saw that the 2 enemies she had fought with for hundreds of years had all been killed. Her eyes swept over Zhongling and the other 9 women before she finally nodded slightly and flew toward Wuxia. She didn't expect it. The 9 children she took care of turned out to be immortals with their memories sealed. Moreover, they were also Tan Xiu's maids. She didn't expect that their strength had reached such a level. She couldn't exile and let go. The old woman wore a gratified expression and disappeared from the sky above the South China Sea in just a few breaths. In the sky, the tribulation clouds churned, and the lightning seemed to break free from the shackles of the dark clouds at any time and struck down on everyone below. As Gu Yan'er unlocked the restriction in her body, her aura continued to rise. Her divine will instantly enveloped the entire earth. She easily found the remaining zodiac jade carvings and took them all in an instant. At the same time, in tens of thousands of places on earth, some villains who had done despicable things were also instantly wiped out by her divine will. It was also at this moment that the entire human race was at its most peaceful. Master. Gu Yan'er handed the zodiac jade carvings to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu smiled slightly. With a long roar, he took out all the other zodiac jade carvings that he had kept in the space ring. A total of 12 zodiac jade carvings instantly flew in all directions. A dazzling red light burst out from each zodiac jade carving, and a powerful aura descended from the sky. Who destroyed my heavenly law cage? An angry roar came from the distant sky. In the blink of an eye, a palm that was tens of thousands of kilometers in size slammed down from the sky. Gu Yan'er's eyes turned cold. She fiercely slashed out an immortal sword and slashed it directly at the big palm. A hole that was thousands of kilometers long appeared on the palm of the big golden palm. Immediately, blood poured down and was instantly sucked into the tens of thousands of jade bottles that Tan Xiu took out. A golden immortal? Damn it! The mysterious powerhouse in the sky hurriedly withdrew his hand. As he cursed in exasperation, he finally disappeared without a trace. At this moment, in the sky, a hole that was tens of kilometers wide and thousands of kilometers long gushed out endless immortal qi. Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er looked at each other. Then Gu Yan'er waved her arm and a shuttle-shaped immortal artifact appeared out of thin air. More than 200,000 powerhouses of the Great Tang Empire were all sucked into the shuttle-shaped immortal artifact. Let's go, Master, Gu Yan'er said softly. Tan Xiu smiled faintly and gestured for her to go in first. Then he looked to the north. With his eyesight, he could clearly see dozens of powerhouses from China's Special Abilities Bureau. All of them were holding binoculars and observing this place. At the same time, he also saw Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjin holding binoculars with complicated expressions. Brother Miao, Brother Xiao, take care. If you have any problems, go find that Taoist in linen clothes. She is the true guardian of China. You will still be able to see her in 100 years. Senior Duanmu, I hope I can see you in the immortal world. At that time, the flag of my great Tang Empire will be planted all over the immortal world. After saying that, Tan Xiu looked at the moved people. Then he looked up at the shuttle-shaped immortal artifact and laughed. What are you waiting for, Fire Qilin? Do you want to return to the immortal world with your own strength? Roar! A thunderous roar came from afar. In just a few breaths of time, the flaming Fire Qilin appeared in front of Tan Xiu. Put away the flames. Let's go. After saying that, Tan Xiu's figure quickly entered the shuttle-shaped immortal artifact. The monstrous flames on the fire Qilint's body also dissipated in an instant and quickly entered the shuttle-shaped immortal artifact. Buzz! A huge aura was transmitted from the shuttle-shaped immortal artifact. In almost the blink of an eye, it quickly rushed into the crack in the sky. A few minutes later, the crack in the sky slowly closed. The dark clouds dispersed, the lightning disappeared, and the deafening roar of thunder disappeared. The entire world returned to its original state. Chapter 1256. Immortal World, Extraterritorial Milky Way. Lightning suddenly flashed and thunder rumbled in the dark world. Planets trembled slightly as airwaves formed tornadoes that passed through the planets and crushed tens of thousands of meteorites. A shuttle-shaped immortal artifact suddenly appeared out of thin air amidst the sudden burst of light. The 1,000-meter-long shuttle-shaped immortal artifact quietly floated near a planet and gradually dissipated along with the heaven and earth phenomenon. The hatch opened and two figures quickly appeared in the outside world. This is... Guyen slightly furrowed her brows with a puzzled look in her eyes. She had been fighting in the immortal world for thousands of years and had been to countless places, but she was sure that she had never been here before. Tanxio's expression was calm, but there was a complicated look in his eyes. He sensed the rich immortal qi in the surroundings and slowly said, "This is extraterritorial Milky Way." Extraterritorial Milky Way? How did we come to extraterritorial Milky Way? Guyener was surprised. You must know that the immortal world is boundless and extraterritorial Milky Way is very far from where we used to live. Even I have never been to such a faraway place. If we can't find a teleportation immortal array, it'll probably take us thousands of years to reach the immortal Lyceum's territory by relying on the Skysoar shuttle. Tanxio looked around and said, "We really can't reach the immortal Lyceum's territory for the time being. Even if we do, we'll encounter many dangers along the way. We'll all die on the way if we're careless." "What should we do, Master?" Guyener forced a smile. "We can only take an unconventional path now," said Tanxio. "We'll find a place to stop and settle everyone, but we'll need to leave for a while." "Where are we going?" asked Guyener curiously. "I've been to extraterritorial Milky Way before and I know where there's a teleportation immortal array," said Tanxio. "But we'll need to pay a lot of immortal stones if we want to use it given our strength. That's why we're going to snatch the immortal stones from the nearby immortals. Of course, it'll be even better if we can get immortal crystals." "Robbery?" Guyener smiled bitterly. With the identity of her master, Tanxio, he was actually reduced to the point of robbing others. If those who knew her master's identity heard this, they would probably find it hard to believe. A few days later, the flying Apsara shuttle landed on a planet. This planet was very desolate, and not a single living thing could be seen on the entire planet. More than 200,000 people flew out from the Skysoar shuttles and set up camp there. Buzz, 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 whether it was the higher-ups of the Great Tang Empire, the soldiers of the 4 major legions, or the family members who came with them, all of them had a breakthrough in their cultivation after absorbing the immortal qi. After living on this planet for half a month, almost everyone had a breakthrough. Some people with excellent cultivation talent even had consecutive breakthroughs. It could be said that the overall strength of the Great Tang Empire had increased by at least a level in just half a month. During this half a month, Guyener, who had the strength of a golden immortal, had arranged 4 layers of arrays on this planet. Each layer of arrays was closely connected, and no one could break this array and harm the people of the Great Tang Empire, unless they were an immortal who had reached the golden immortal stage. "Let's go." After arranging everything, Tanxio and Guyener flew into the distance. The immortal world was vast and boundless, and the extraterritorial galaxy was also very vast. Even a perfected golden immortal would need 100 years to fly from one end of the extraterritorial galaxy to the other. In such a vast territory, there were countless forces, countless immortals, and tens of billions of mortals. 2 days later, the two of them met the first immortal in the immortal world. This immortal was wearing a white robe and had the appearance of a weak scholar. He was flying in a sorry state. His cultivation was only at the celestial immortal stage, but there were more than a dozen immortals in the 2 chariots behind him. Most of them were at the celestial immortal stage, and only the white-haired, white-bearded old man's surging aura proved that he was a low-stage profound immortal. Stop! Tan Xiao and Gu Yenner stood in front of the white-robed immortal. Yu Zhong was an immortal who lived in the coiling spiral immortal domain of the extraterritorial galaxy. His family was very powerful, but he was the illegitimate son of a deacon elder of that family. Because his father had gone to another immortal domain to handle some matters, his father's official wife made things difficult for him and sent people to get rid of him. However, just when he was in despair, he found that there was actually a powerhouse blocking his way. It made him feel like adding fuel to the fire, and his heart fell to the bottom at this moment. Senior, please spare my life. Sensing Gu Yenner's powerful aura, Yu Zhong immediately knelt in the void and begged for mercy. Tan Xiao glanced at Yu Zhong indifferently, and then his eyes fell on the 2 chariots that were getting closer and closer. As the chariots arrived, more than a dozen people on them floated down. The immortal world is really as cruel as it used to be. A bright smile appeared on Tan Xiao's handsome face. The old man in the lead narrowed his eyes and sized up Tan Xiao. Then his eyes fell on Gu Yenner and said indifferently, "Thank you for helping us stop those damned people, 2 friends." "I'm not interested in the matters between you two," said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. "If you know what's good for you, hand over all your immortal stones and immortal crystals. I only want money, not blood." "Are you trying to rob us?" shouted the old man angrily. "Didn't you see the symbol on us?" asked Tan Xiao with a smile. "What's wrong? Don't tell me you guys have some great background?" The old man sneered. "This immortal domain is under the control of my Yu clan. Anyone who dares to provoke my Yu clan has already perished. Judging from your extraordinary bearing, you too shouldn't be from this immortal domain, so I advise you not to poke your nose into other people's business. Don't harbor any evil intentions, else you'll lose your life." Tan Xiao secretly shook his head. Although he had yet to break through to the immortal stage, and was far from being a match for these people, he had Gu Yenner by his side, a golden immortal helper. The Yu clan? He had never heard of it before, so it must be a small clan in this immortal domain. Tan Xiao looked at Yu Zhong and curiously asked, "They're from the Yu clan. What about you? Who are you exactly? How did you provoke them?" Yu Zhong was afraid of Gu Yenner's strength, so he honestly told her about his life experience. Finally, he said with a bit of hatred, "It's not up to me to decide which family I'll be reincarnated in. I've been very low-key for the past 1,000 years, and didn't even want to use the resources given by my father, because I didn't want to take advantage of the Yu clan. However, the Yu clan still didn't want to let me go after my father left. 2 seniors, please save my life. I'm willing to give you all the wealth I have. Also, I'm willing to tell you a secret that will definitely be of great benefit to people like you who seek wealth." Tan Xiao's eyes lit up, and he immediately smiled. "I think we can make this deal, Yenner." Whoosh! Gu Yenner's figure was as fast as lightning, and appeared in front of the Yu clan's immortals in a flash. She instantly unleashed her immortal sword, and a swift and fierce sword moved toward the sky and swept over the immortals. How is this possible?" The eyes of the leading old man fiercely shrunk and disbelief burst out from his eyes. He was a profound immortal expert, and was quite famous in this immortal domain. In the entire Yu clan, only the patriarch and the 6 deacons were stronger than him. However, the other party could kill him in one move, and also kill all the men he brought. Such strength was at least at the golden immortal stage. Gu Yenner sneered. She seemed to have returned to the days when she was bathed in blood and killing. There was no trace of pity in her eyes. She quickly took out the interspatial rings of the Yu clan's members, and opened them to find a lot of things inside. "They're too poor, master." Gu Yenner shook her head and finally transferred all the things into her interspatial ring. Then she said, "There are only 102,000 immortal stones and 4 immortal crystals. The other things are also trash. I'm afraid they can only be exchanged for a few 100,000 immortal stones at most." At the side, a strange expression appeared on Yu Zhong's face. There were so many immortal stones and immortal crystals. Yet this woman said that the Yu clan was poor? Was she joking? However, Tanxio's next words almost made him collapse. They're indeed poor with so few immortal stones and immortal crystals. Tanxio chuckled. I was just thinking about robbing this Yu clan, but I think it's better to forget about it now. They probably don't have much wealth. You're right, master. Guyener smiled. But even a small mosquito has meat for us now. How about I go there myself? I'm sure I can loot the Yu clan. Tanxio looked at Yu Zhong and asked, Is the Yu clan far from here? Yu Zhong's lips squirmed a few times and he forced a smile. It's not too far. It's only half a month's journey from here to the planet where the Yu clan is located. Given this senior's cultivation level, I'm afraid he can reach there in a few days. Tanxio and Guyener glanced at each other and immediately said with a smile, Since it's not too far, let's go to the Yu clan. That's right, you hate the Yu clan a lot, don't you? I hate them very much. Yu Zhong nodded heavily. I hate them so much that everyone in the Yu clan except for my father must die. Tanxio sighed inwardly. This guy is not a good person at all. That's right. You just said that you'll tell me a secret if we help you kill these Yu clan members. Now, I want to know what secret you're going to tell me. Little fellow, if I have no interest in the secret you tell me, nor can I gain much from it, then you will have to pay a terrible price. I'll tell you in advance that I'm proficient in a secret art that can extract the immortal soul of an immortal, and then torture it for an indefinite period of time. I'm afraid even fiends will be afraid of my method of torturing the immortal soul. Tanxio took out a cigarette, lit it up and said with a smile while smoking. Chapter 1257. Looking at Tanxio's smiling expression, her heart fiercely twitched a few times, even though he wasn't able to sense a strong aura from the young man before him. But even that expert that was at least at the mysterious immortal realm had to respectfully address him as master. Presumably, this young man was concealing his strength, and he was probably formidable to an unimaginable extent. Moreover, this was not a good person. Yu Zhong was regretting his decision to lie to them. As long as he could get away, he could go there to try his luck when he was strong enough. But now, it seemed that he would end up badly if he lied to them. Senior, the secret I told you before is actually a blessed grotto heaven I found. It's a place full of dangers. Weaker immortals will definitely die there. I once teamed up with others to take an adventure there in order to obtain cultivation resources. In the end, all my companions died there, and I was the only one lucky enough to escape. I was able to cultivate to the celestial immortal realm with my own ability, because I obtained the auric perfusion gold in that blessed grotto heaven. Yu Zhong said respectfully. Auric perfusion gold? Tanxio and Guyener exchanged dismayed glances and looked surprised at the same time. The auric perfusion gold was a spiritual object of heaven and earth. It had great benefits for cultivators, especially its ability to nourish the immortal soul, and greatly increase the power of the immortal soul. If an ordinary cultivator absorbed the essence of the auric perfusion gold, he could smoothly cultivate to the immortal realm, as long as he didn't die prematurely. When an immortal absorbed the essence of the auric perfusion gold, his immortal soul would also benefit greatly. Tanxio was eager to improve his cultivation because his understanding of the heavenly Tao had already reached the peak of the immortal realm. As long as he could quickly improve the power of his immortal soul, and obtain a large amount of cultivation resources, his cultivation path would be smooth sailing, and he would return to the supremacy realm. Tell me, where is it? Tanxio stared at Yu Zhong. If he dared to lie, Tanxio would definitely make him die a horrible death. Yu Zhong took out an astrolabe and quickly marked an area. Then he said, that heavenly abode is here. According to our judgment, this should be a trial ground. The place we went deep into was only the outermost area of this heavenly abode. However, just the outermost region had 7 levels. We only managed to enter the 7th level before my comrade was killed by some immortal puppets. Tanxio took a deep breath and looked at Guyener. Let's go to the Yu family first. I need a lot of immortal stones and crystals to improve my cultivation. When my cultivation reaches the immortal realm, we can explore this place again. All right. Guyener nodded in agreement. Tanxio asked again, did you find an astrolabe on the bodies of the Yu clan? Yes. Gu Yenner took out an astrolabe and said, "This is the most comprehensive astrolabe that marks the extraterritorial Milky Way immortal domain. But there is still a small part of it that is not marked. Including the place he just marked, there's no such place in the astrolabe we snatched." Tan Xiao took Yuzhong's astrolabe and compared it to add some new places. An astrolabe was a map for immortals. Almost all immortals knew how to add a celestial domain mark on the astrolabe to increase its coverage area. "Take us to the Yu family." Tan Xiao grabbed Yuzhong's shoulder and then flew quickly with Gu Yenner. Flying in the starry sky was a common thing for immortals. After all, the immortal world was too vast. Only on a supercontinent could they travel through the universe without crossing the void. Planet Everblue. It was a planet thousands of times bigger than Earth, but 65% of its surface was covered by water. There were countless rivers and lakes, and the vast ocean stretched as far as the eye could see. This planet had a total of 3 large continents, while the rest were islands of different sizes. The Yu clan was an extremely powerful clan in this immortal domain, and occupied a large continent. Planet Everblue has a total population of more than 100 million, among which there are hundreds of thousands of immortals. However, there are only 3 golden immortals on this planet, the most powerful of which is the Lan clan's ancestor. Rumor has it that she has broken through to late-stage golden immortal, and is likely to break through to perfected golden immortal within 1,000 years. The Yu clan's ancestor is also a golden immortal, but he's only an initial stage golden immortal, far from being a match for the Lan clan's ancestor. However, the Yu clan has 6 abstruse immortals, 3 more than the Lan clan. Along the way, Yuzhong explained the situation of this immortal domain, and finally introduced Planet Everblue. Tan Xiao noticed that when Yuzhong talked about the Yu clan's ancestor, his eyes were exceptionally cold, devoid of any emotion. Perhaps in his heart, the Yu clan's ancestor wasn't as important as a passerby. Yuzhong, we're all upright immortals. Although we'll rob some immortals when we're poor, they're all bad people. Since the Yu clan is bad in your heart, we won't be polite. However, your life is in my hands, so I'll use your name to rob the Yu clan. Do you dare? Asked Tang Xiao with a smile after he landed on the continent where the Yu family of Blue Star was located. Yuzhong hesitated for a moment and forced a smile. Do I dare to disagree, senior? A wise man submits to circumstances. Tan Xiao smiled. You hate the Yu clan, so you can be the one to clamor. Let's head straight to the Yu clan's territory. That's right. Do you know where the Yu clan's treasure vault is? I've never used the Yu clan's resources, so how would I know where their treasure vault is? Yuzhong shook his head. But if you can catch a high-level member of the Yu clan, you can easily interrogate him. That's right. Tan Xiao patted his forehead and deliberately said, I'm really smart, but I'm muddle-headed this time. Let's go. We'll go straight to their clan's territory and stir up trouble. Then we'll ravage them. At the Yu clan, the land occupied by the Yu clan was comparable to the entire Wuxia country on Earth. Pavilions rose and fell continuously. No one flew above the Yu clan's territory, because a powerful array was set up over the entire place. Unless someone could break the array, they would be attacked by the array once they flew into the air. Boom! The 100-meter-high gate of the Yu clan was smashed by Yuzhong's fierce punch. The tens of Yu clan members stationed outside the gate were all ordinary immortals, so they couldn't withstand Yuzhong's punch and were directly killed. In a flash, figures flickered lightning fast from the inside. They wore combat robes and held immortal artifacts in their hands. Each of them exuded a murderous aura, and quickly appeared in front of the trio. The leader was a burly man in a black combat robe with a black cloak draped over his shoulders, and an immortal spear in his hand. The moment he saw Yuzhong, he angrily shouted, You're a member of the Yu clan, yet you dare to slaughter your own clansmen and smash the gate of your clan? You deserve to die. Yuzhong, you damned bastard. Who gave you the guts to do this? Yuzhong unleashed his immortal sword and said with a murderous aura, Yulong, you know I'm a member of the Yu clan, so why didn't you, the ones in power, do anything about that demoness sending people to hunt me down? If I hadn't met my 2 benefactors, I would have been killed by Yu Qi. A sympathetic look flashed in the eyes of the burly man called Yulong, but he still coldly said, That's your clan's business. It has nothing to do with us. But you brought people to destroy the gate and slaughter the clan's guards. That's a capital crime. Surrender and you can live a bit longer. Else, you'll have your souls scattered and you'll never be able to reincarnate. You're not qualified to make me surrender. Yu Zhong sneered. Seniors, both of you are people who have done great favors for me. I've decided to give the Yu clan to you. If they dare to disrespect you again, then kill them. Tan Xiu faintly smiled and looked at the burly man called Yu Long, feeling a bit helpless inside. He said that he was going to rob with Gu Yan. But in fact he couldn't do anything at all. With his current strength, he could only defeat ordinary immortals at most. Any Earth immortal could easily kill him. Cherish your time, Yin. Do it now. The smile on Gu Yan'er's face slowly receded. The moment she unleashed the immortal sword inside her body, layers of sword images spread out for tens of kilometers. In nearly the blink of an eye, the outermost buildings of the Yu clan were all destroyed by the sword images. Tens of thousands of Yu clan members were seriously injured and lost the ability to resist. She didn't kill anyone. She knew Tan Xiu's character and that he wouldn't let her kill people casually, so she showed mercy and only crippled those people. Bastard. Yu Long retreated for tens of kilometers and looked at Gu Yan'er's terrifying figure. He immediately turned his head and shouted, Deacons, some people have come to our Yu clan to cause trouble. Sirs, please make your move and slaughter these damned enemies. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 figures flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of Yu Long. The burly man in the middle unleashed a sword strike and shouted, Who the hell are you? How dare you provoke the immortal might of my Yu clan? Are you tired of living? Gu Yan'er snorted coldly and instantly unleashed 80% of her power. As she unleashed her immortal arts and divine abilities, a large number of Yu clan members were sent flying and all of them were knocked unconscious. The 3 profound immortals who were directly attacked by Gu Yan'er looked horrified at the same time. A golden immortal? A golden immortal dares to attack my Yu clan? Quickly inform the old ancestor, and ask her to eliminate these enemies. Yu Long could only watch helplessly as the 3 profound immortal deacons were sent flying. 2 of them didn't seem to be able to survive, so he immediately screamed in horror. Gu Yan wore a disdainful look on her face. She unleashed a flurry of sword images and knocked out all the Yu family members below the Earth Immortal stage, while all the Earth Immortals and above were killed by her. Thousands of interspatial rings were thrown towards Tang Xiu's direction. Chapter 1258. Tan Xiu hovered in the air and looked at the interspatial rings that kept flying toward him. A bright smile appeared on his handsome face. As he used the secret technique, space ring after space ring was wiped clean of other people's traces, before he swiftly stored them into his own space ring. Yu Zhong, who stood next to Tan Xiu, had a complicated expression on his face. The members of the Yu clan, whom he had once hated, were now lying on the ground like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Those who had bullied him countless times in the past were also killed. His heart felt like it had been overturned. The sour, sweet, bitter, spicy, and salty feelings surged in his heart. After a long while, 2 lines of tears rolled down his cheeks and the blue veins on his forehead bulged. He looked up at the sky and screamed, Mother, do you see this? These damn Yu clan members have received their retribution. Rest in peace, your soul in heaven. All of a sudden, a huge aura came from the depths of the Yu clan's land, and an old voice shook the world. Who dares to make trouble in my Yu clan? Do you really think there's no one left in the Yu clan? Gu Yan withdrew her immortal sword and looked at the newcomer. A contemptuous look flashed in her eyes and she coldly said, The Yu clan does have a lot of people, but they're nothing but ants. Little guy, it's not easy to cultivate to the golden immortal stage. Open your clan's treasure vault, and hand over all your wealth if you don't want to die. Robbery? Yu Haoran arrived in front of Gu Yan, as if he couldn't believe his ears. He could sense Gu Yan'er's power, but never in his wildest dreams did he imagine that a golden immortal expert would rob his Yu clan without a care for her face. What kind of treasure did his Yu clan have that made her so shameless? Who are you, mister? I'm afraid your real intention is not as simple as robbery, right? Asked Yu Haoran in a deep voice. I'm a dignified golden immortal, So why would I want your clan's wealth? How could it be robbery? Gu Yanner replied indifferently. I came here with Master mainly to seek revenge for an ordinary person. However, it's a waste to leave the resources in your clan. Master and I are doing a good deed, so I'll help you keep it. Master? Yu Haoran was shocked in his heart. To be able to become the master of a golden immortal expert, I'm afraid he's at least a perfected golden immortal, right? If it was a perfected golden celestial, then it wasn't someone he could contend against. Even the woman in front of him might not be his match. When Yu Haoran understood this, he glanced at Tan Xiao and Yu Zhong. To his surprise, he found that Tan Xiao had not even reached the immortal realm. He was just a cultivator at the crossing tribulation stage. However, when he thought about what Gu Yanner had said just now, he immediately felt that this fellow in front of him was absolutely a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven who was pretending to be weak. Senior, if you need wealth, my Yu clan is willing to hand over all our wealth. However, I don't know which member of my Yu family had a grudge against your friend. If we can mediate, I'm willing to hand over the culprit and let you deal with him. Gu Yanner slightly furrowed her brows and muttered. I thought I could go on a killing spree, but it seems impossible now. Master is the most soft-hearted one. I really don't understand why a dignified supreme in the immortal world would pity these ants. With that said, Gu Yanner flew toward Tan Xiao. Yu Haoran was shaken inwardly, and a chill instantly spread all over his body. He clearly heard Gu Yanner's mutterings just now, especially those 4 words, which were like a clap of thunder roaring in his heart. Supreme in the immortal world. Could it be that this mysterious man is a supreme in the immortal world? There are probably less than 100 people in the entire immortal world who can reach the supremacy stage, right? Who is he? Which terrifying existence is he? Yu Zhong flew out from behind. He could clearly sense Yu Haoran's fear, so he felt that he should use his connections to bully others. Hence, he came to a place about a kilometer away from the Yu family's ancestor and indifferently said, Yu Zun's wife Lan Shi and her 13 relatives are all damned. Yu Haoran slightly furrowed his brows. He knew that Yu Zun was one of the 6 deacons of the family, and a profound immortal stage expert. However, when he thought about the terrifying cultivation of the 2 people in front of him, Yu Haoran coldly gave an order. Capture Yu Zun's wife, Lan Shi, and the 13 branches that are close to her. Investigate and execute everyone who has enmity with this friend. The order was issued. Heads immediately rolled down from the Yu family. Nearly 1,000 people led by Yu Zun's wife were killed on the spot. With a bitter expression, Yu Haoran respectfully said, We've already killed all the people who should be killed. I've also sent someone to open the Yu family's treasury. Please. I'm afraid the treasury of such a small family is full of trash, Tan Xiao said with a faint smile. Yanner, just go and come back quickly. We still have to visit the other 2 families. The other 2 families? Yu Haoran was shaken inwardly. If it was said that he was a bit unwilling before, then he was now gloating. Although his family suffered a great loss this time, he was smart enough to avoid a bigger loss. But the old fogies of the other 2 families were stubborn. If they were to fall out with these people, it was likely that their families would be filled with rivers of blood and corpses, wouldn't it? In just a few minutes, Gu Yanner returned to Tan Xiao and gently nodded. The 3 of them no longer paid attention to Yu Haoran and flew straight to the distance. Yu Haoran stood in the air and looked at the direction where the 3 of them disappeared. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Notify the family's disciples to not walk around in the near future. If anyone dares to provoke them, I'll personally take his life without them having to kill him. Whoosh! A burly man appeared next to Yu Haoran. His eyes were full of anger as he said, 6th uncle, why did you compromise? You should be able to make them stay given your strength, right? Yu Haoran turned his head and a cold light flashed in his eyes as he indifferently said, Stay? Do you really think I can make them stay? She's at least a late-stage golden immortal expert and a master she mentioned. Do you really think I can do it? That woman is a late-stage golden immortal expert? Asked the burly man in horror. Otherwise, do you think I would compromise? Yu Haoran sneered. Do you think the lives of my Yu family's descendants are so worthless? Humph. If it's only that woman, I can activate our Yu family's protective array to deal with her. But what about her unfathomable master? What do you think his cultivation level is? Is he a perfected golden immortal? Asked the burly man hesitantly. He's a supreme. Yu Haoran shook his head. He's a supreme who can destroy our entire family in the immortal world with just one strike. Fortunately, he didn't bother to fight us, else we would all be dead now, including me. Gasp! The burly man couldn't help but gasp after hearing it. Blue Star. Another piece of land belonged to the Lan family. As the three of them arrived, Gu Yan'er knocked Yu Zhong out and casually threw him into a corner. Then she and Gu Yan'er sneaked into the Lan family's territory. Their arrival didn't alarm anyone in the Lan family. Tan Xiu personally broke the array formations in the Lan family's territory, while Gu Yan'er was responsible for looting the Lan family's treasure vault. In 2 days, the two of them had looted 80% of the Lan family's wealth. Then, the two of them took the still unconscious Yu Zhong and appeared in another family. They used the same method to loot the other family's wealth, and then directly left the Blue Star and flew toward the vast starry sky. Damn you family! You family, you are hateful! A few days after they left, the Lan family and another family roared furiously at the same time. A large number of experts from the two families even attacked the Yu family's territory in a short time. The reason was very simple. The Yu family had stolen nearly all of their family's wealth. All of it. For Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er, it didn't matter anymore. The two of them took Yu Zhong and found a desolate planet, where they lived in seclusion. For 3 months, Tan Xiu was in seclusion. He didn't absorb the energy contained in the immortal crystals. Instead, he desperately absorbed the immortal qi in the immortal stones. Finally, when the 3 months were up, he faced his immortal tribulation. What he cultivated was the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, which belonged to the top cultivation technique of the demon realm. Even if it was given to a demon god to cultivate, it would still bring him great benefits. But Tan Xiu didn't have demonic qi in his body. Instead, he had chaotic force, which was several levels higher than demonic qi. Therefore, his immortal tribulation was very terrifying. Even the Earth immortal tribulation wasn't as powerful as the one Tan Xiu faced. Standing thousands of miles away, Gu Yan'er's eyes flickered with worry. Yu Zhong, who was next to her, had a strange expression on his face. He stared at the area where Tan Xiu was, not knowing how to express the strange feeling in his heart. The master of a golden immortal had just passed the tribulation. This was the first time he had heard of such a ridiculous thing since the beginning of the world. Therefore, Yu Zhong thought of the words Gu Yan'er muttered in the Yu family, and suddenly felt that it was funny. She even said that the supreme immortal realm was just a bluff. It was really hard for the patriarch of the Yu family to believe it, and help him get rid of his enemy. He even offered most of his family's wealth. Tan Xiu stood in the immortal tribulation, letting bolts of lightning as thick as an arm strike his body. 81 bolts of lightning couldn't even break his body's defense. Sparks and electric snakes wrapped around him, as if giving him a bath. Tornadoes mixed with surging immortal qi enveloped Tan Xiu. But every time Tan Xiu waved his fist, he could destroy the terrifying tornadoes. At the same time, the thousands of planets around him were all trembling slightly. The most original life force of each planet was being frantically extracted by Tan Xiu and injected into his body. While strengthening himself, it was also used to fight against the heavenly tribulation. The planets in his body began to expand. After the 81 bolts of lightning had struck him, there were tens of thousands of planets in his body, which were about the size of Earth. Chapter 1259. The Heavenly Path Universe tree suspended in his Dantian space was already hundreds of meters tall, lush with leaves. Rich life force was continuously being fed back to Tan Xiu, causing his cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds and his strength to soar countless times. Power. Tan Xiu deeply felt the taste of power. The feeling of expansion, and the feeling of having everything under his control made him slightly shudder. Because he had experienced this stage before, Tan Xiu was well aware that he was not an ordinary immortal after going through the immortal tribulation. His strength was comparable to an Earth immortal stage expert, even though his body had been integrated with the immortal force. Most importantly, with the surge in his strength, he could now cast many immortal arts and divine powers that he couldn't before. With his current strength, he could easily kill an ordinary expert in the heaven celestial stage. It feels good. As the immortal tribulation subsided, Tanshio slowly stretched himself. A confident smile crept up on his face, and he couldn't help but mutter inwardly. Suddenly his smile froze. After a moment of daze, he suddenly realized something. In the past, he always had hallucinations when he transcended tribulations, but not this time. Could it be that the inner demon in my heart has been removed and I'll no longer have any inner demon haunting me? Tanshio frowned. After thinking about it, he felt that it was reasonable and slowly let it go. In the distance, Yu Zhong was tongue-tied as he watched the terrifying immortal tribulation recede. He looked at Tanshio, who was stretching and smiling. It was as if he had seen the most incredible thing in his life, and his mouth was wide open. Gu Yan'er also looked happy. She turned to glance at Yu Zhong and couldn't help but smile. You feel relaxed, don't you? Too relaxed. Yu Zhong's lips squirmed and he murmured. When I transcended the immortal tribulation, the power was far inferior to this one, but I barely managed to resist it. Why do I feel like he's just joking with his tribulation? It was such a powerful attack, yet it only scratched his itch without causing him any pain. Could it be that the heavenly Tao's rules are all bark and no bite, purposely going easy on him? Pfft. Gu Yan'er couldn't help but laugh out loud. Looking at the shocked expression, she said with a smile, Who is he? He is my master. This kind of immortal tribulation is simply child's play to my master. Let me tell you, even though my master has just passed his immortal tribulation, with his current strength, I'm afraid he can still fight a heaven immortal like you. Yu Zhong slowly turned his head and looked at Gu Yan'er's flower-like smiling face. Although her beauty made his heart flutter, he still shook his head and said, He has just advanced to become an ordinary immortal. Even if the heavenly tribulation he experienced was very powerful and he's very strong, he can only be compared to an earth immortal at best. Fight with me? I don't find your words funny at all. Gu Yan'er revealed a playful expression and said, Don't worry. There will be a time for you to see it. Yan'er. Tanshio flickered and appeared in front of Gu Yan'er. He looked at Yu Zhong, whose expression was a bit strange. He ignored him and smilingly said, We've successfully crossed the immortal tribulation, so it's time for us to deal with the proper business. The wealth of those 3 clans is too little, and I've consumed a lot of it recently, so we need to rob more resources. Are we still going to aimlessly look for a target, Master? Gu Yan'er nodded. Or are we going to continue robbing the big clans in this immortal domain? We've already robbed the 3 biggest clans in this immortal domain. Tanshio shook his head. I'm afraid there won't be much profit if we go to other clans. Also, if I remember correctly, there's a colorful light area nearby where many powerful immortals go to explore. Let's also go there, and we should be able to get a good harvest soon. Robbing powerhouses is naturally better than robbing poor clans. Gu Yan'er nodded. What should we do with him, Master? Kill him? Or let him go? He's not our enemy. Tanshio shook his head. His strength won't be a threat to us, so there's no need to kill him. How about this, we'll let him follow us first, and we'll let him go after we've snatched enough cultivation resources. Yu Zhong wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and hurriedly said, Yes. I may be very weak, but I'm a celestial immortal after all. I'm sure I can help you a lot. Also, I don't have any malice toward you, and I'm very grateful to you. I would have died in the hands of the Yu clan if it weren't for you, let alone taking revenge. It's good that you know what you're doing, Tanshio said. We don't like to kill innocent people. Just listen to us and take us to the place where the auric perfusion source is in the future. Of course, we won't let you work with us for free. We'll give you 1/10,000th of all the cultivation resources we've robbed as a reward. 1/10,000th? Yu Zhong's eyes lit up and an ecstatic look immediately appeared on his face. 1/10,000th sounded like a small amount, but it was an absolutely amazing fortune for him personally. It must be noted that this man and woman in front of him had just robbed the 3 major clans and obtained an astronomical number of resources. Those resources were already huge in his eyes. Thank you. Thank you, Senior. I'll do my best until the day I die. Tan Xiu was very satisfied with Yu Zhong's attitude. He immediately left and said a few more words to him. You're not bad. At least you haven't used the Yu clan's resources all these years. You may not have much strength, but you have a good backbone. As an immortal cultivator, you must have the courage to fight against the heavens, demons, and ghosts. The immortal world is a cruel world. If you don't fight, you'll be eliminated and die in the hands of more powerful enemies one day. Cultivate well, and you may become a powerhouse who can shake the world in the future. Yu Zhong agreed with Tan Xiu's words, but inwardly he felt disdainful of the praise. It was simply a joke for a weakling who had just ascended to Immortal to give him pointers. 7 days later, the three of them had arrived at the multicolored starfield. There was a huge land floating in the air here. It was so vast that one couldn't see the end of it. Some almighty experts from the immortal world had once measured the area of the Sunray starfield. It was so vast that even a perfected golden immortal would need several years to fly from one end to the other. This starfield was filled with multicolored lights. The scene was breathtakingly beautiful. However, the red clouds fluttering in the air greatly hindered their vision. Is this the multicolored starfield? I've only heard about it countless times before, but I've never been here. Yu Zhong curiously observed the scene in front of him, but he was secretly on guard because he had heard about the dangers here. This place looked beautiful, but it was filled with danger at every step. A slight carelessness would lead to death without a burial. I've been here before. Tan Xiu nodded and said, this is indeed the multicolored starfield. Let's go. I know there's a special creature here that will be very beneficial to us. Since we're already here, plundering cultivation resources is one thing, but we must also collect the good stuff. What kind of special creature are you talking about, Master? Asked Guyen curiously. It's a firecloud cicada, answered Tan Xiu with a faint smile. A firecloud cicada? Guyen stared blankly for a moment, and then smiled with satisfaction. It's indeed a good thing. If we can get it, we can combine it with other materials to refine the multicolored cloak. A strange expression appeared on Yu Zhong's face again. Although Tan Xiu had just broken through to the immortal stage, this person was getting more and more mysterious in his eyes. He knew about the firecloud cicada and was very clear about it. This creature was very powerful, but its value was also very high. A firecloud cicada could be auctioned for tens of millions of immortal stones. If he could get a firecloud cicada, he wouldn't need to worry about cultivation resources for the next 100 years at least. Senior, this firecloud cicada is very powerful. I don't have the slightest confidence in catching it. Besides, I heard that it lives in a very dangerous place. Shouldn't we reconsider? Yu Zhong hesitated for a moment, but he still spoke up for the sake of his own life. Tan Xiu glanced at him and lightly said, there's no need to reconsider. I've already made my decision. Shortly after, the trio entered the range of the Sunglow starfield. After more than a day of hurrying, they finally stopped on a crimson mountain peak. It was not that they didn't want to continue their journey, but the battle ahead blocked their way. The monstrous sword chi and the sharp saber light made them not dare to take it lightly even though they weren't weak. Interesting. Standing under a red tree, Tan Xiu quietly watched the battle tens of kilometers away. With his current eyesight, not to mention the scene tens of kilometers away, he could even clearly see the scene thousands of kilometers away. In the sky, more than a dozen immortals were fighting. To be precise, it should be more than a dozen celestial immortals in white robes were besieging a black-robed man under the leadership of a profound immortal. The black-robed man was very strong, and was at least a golden immortal stage expert. However, his body was riddled with scars and his injuries were extremely serious. Even a profound immortal, and more than a dozen celestial immortals still made him struggle to hold on. What made Tan Xiu and Guyen vigilant was not the two sides fighting, but the three old men standing near them. Two of them were obviously from the same group as the white-robed immortal, whereas the other old man covered in blood was from the black-robed man's group. Their auras were very powerful. As a golden immortal, Guyen could judge their auras and knew that they were at least golden immortals. Even if they were hiding their strength, It was very likely that they were perfected golden immortals. Even if they were not, the weakest among them was at least a late-stage golden immortal. Heavens! I know that immortal who's being besieged. He's Dark North Immortal, the sect master of the Aurelian Artificer sect in another starfield. He's a dignified golden immortal. Yet we're in such a miserable state? Disbelief flashed in Yu Zhong's eyes as he exclaimed in a low voice. Chapter 1260. A glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He pressed his hand on Yu Zhong's shoulder and asked in a low voice, "Are you sure you're not mistaken? Is he really the Aurelian Artificer sect master?" Yu Zhong nodded and said, "I met him decades ago. He's indeed the Aurelian Artificer sect master. He's very strong and likes to make friends with powerhouses from all walks of life. He definitely has the most friends in the nearby starfields. Of course, the most important thing is that his Aurelian Artificer sect is good at refining artifacts. Many high-quality immortal artifacts are refined by them." "Do you know this Aurelian Artificer sect, master?" asked Gu Yen'er curiously. Tan Xiu nodded slowly and said, "I once had some connections with them. I went to this Aurelian Artificer sect more than 2,000 years ago. I wanted to ask them to help me forge an immortal artifact at that time. But I didn't expect that their level of artificing was much worse than mine. So I picked a batch of crafting materials from the Aurelian Artificer sect and gave them a crafting book as compensation." "Was the Aurelian Artificer sect master the one who besieged you?" asked Gu Yen'er curiously. "No, he wasn't." Tan Xiu shook his head. Gu Yen'er hesitated for a moment and asked, "What should we do then, master? Do we still take action?" Tan Xiu faintly smiled and sent a voice transmission to Gu Yen'er. "Of course. My appearance has changed greatly. Even some of my old acquaintances may not be able to recognize me now. Besides, I'm afraid they won't believe me even if I tell them that I'm that supremacy stage powerhouse given my current strength. However, if this artificer sect is useful, they can help us with something." Gu Yen'er's expression shifted and she immediately understood Tan Xiu's meaning. There were more than 200,000 cultivators in the Great Tang Empire now, and all of them were using ordinary artifacts. Now that they were in the immortal world, if they could equip each of them with an immortal sword, it would definitely increase the Great Tang Empire's combat power to another level. He wanted the Aurelian Artificer sect to refine immortal artifacts for the Great Tang Empire. Dozens of kilometers away, the profound immortal who besieged Dark North Immortal had a proud smile on his face. He fiercely slashed Dark North Immortal's arm and laughed out loud. "You never thought that you would have such a day, did you, Dark North Immortal? Back then, you stole the woman I liked and severely injured me. It's time for us to settle the enmity from back then." Dark North Immortal tried his best to evade, but he had consumed too much immortal force in his body and his injuries were too serious. He was now like an arrow at the end of its flight. Overwhelmed with grief and indignation, he angrily roared, "Qinglu, Kain is the woman I love deeply, and she also loves me deeply. We love each other. It's only right and proper for us to be together. As for you, you despicable and shameless person, you've been scheming against us all along. Back then, I cared about our past relationship, so I only heavily injured you and didn't take your dog life. I didn't expect you to jump out and make an enemy out of me when I was seriously injured. Do you really think that ants like you can kill me?" Clearstream sneered and said, "Of course, with your current situation, we are more than enough to kill you. As for that ancestor of your artificer sect, hee. Do you think he dares to move? My Clearstream clan has 2 ancestors. I really regret that I didn't kill you and scatter your soul back then." Dark North Immortal roared. "It's too late to regret now," sneered Clearstream. In the distance, Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and watched the situation over there. Then he slowly said, "If my guess is correct, those 3 golden immortals over there are all seriously injured. The reason why they haven't moved is that they are afraid of each other. They can encounter danger at any time in this multicolored starfield. If they continue to fight, they will easily fall here unless they are very lucky." Gu Yen'er nodded and said, "That expert from the Aurelian Artificer sect seems to be about to move. He shouldn't just stand by and watch Dark North Immortal get killed. Yenner, if you join hands with that expert from the Aurelian Artificer sect, can you easily get rid of those 2 golden immortals? Asked Tan Xiao. I'm enough to kill all 3 of them by myself, replied Gu Yenner confidently. Then let's do it. Tan Xiao nodded. 3 bolts of lightning flashed and appeared on the battlefield. Then Tan Xiao shouted, fellow immortals of the Artificer sect, I've heard that your Aurelian Artificer sect's master, Dark North Immortal, is a forthright man who likes to make friends from all walks of life. Since fate has brought us to meet today, we also hate such despicable people. Why don't we join hands to kill them? After we kill them, we'll take all their resources. What do you think? Dark North Immortal looked ecstatic upon hearing that and loudly said, I'm Dark North Immortal, the Aurelian Artificer sect's master. Thank you for your help, friend. This Dark North Immortal will always remember this great kindness in my heart. As for the harvest after killing them, it's all yours. Also, this Dark North Immortal will also take out some treasures to thank you. Well said. Tan Xiao watched as Gu Yenner dashed toward the 2 golden core stage experts of the Clearwater clan. Suddenly, he took out an immortal sword from his interspatial ring. Surging sword chi surged as he instantly rushed to Dark North Immortal's side. The 3 of us will join hands to kill the enemies. Tan Xiao shouted in a deep voice. Yu Zhong could only force a wry smile inwardly, but he could only brace himself to fight alongside Tan Xiao and Dark North Immortal. Dark North Immortal went all out to kill the 2 celestial immortals, and quickly approached Tan Xiao. Take them all. Tan Xiao threw a jade bottle, and then controlled his immortal sword to block the attacks of the Clearwater clan's celestial immortals. Yu Zhong directly lured the 3 celestial immortals over, and fought them with all his might. Dark North Immortal had already taken all the healing pills he carried with him. After catching the jade bottle, he unplugged the cork and smelled the medicinal fragrance wafting out of it. Then he swallowed it without hesitation. He knew very well that given the situation he was in, if the other party didn't help him, he would have no choice but to die. Therefore, the other party didn't need to use pills to harm him. He swallowed a holy healing pill. A moment later, he revealed a wry smile. The efficacy of this holy healing pill was too poor, and didn't have much effect on him. Without any hesitation, he swallowed the remaining 19 healing pills in one gulp. Finally, the medicinal effects of so many healing panaceas added together were of some help to his injuries. Taking advantage of this time, he took out an essence amassing pill, swallowed it, and desperately refined it. Fuck off. The immortal sword controlled by Dark North Immortal was a bit more powerful than before. Seeing that the immortal sword controlled by Clearwater clan was about to hit Tan Xiao instantly blocked the immortal sword. At the same time, he fused the trace of medicinal efficacy he had just refined with the last trace of immortal force left in his body, and then unleashed a crazy strike. The immortal sword swept across. Clearwater clan's immortal sword was cut in 2, and Clearwater clan's immortal body was also cut in half. At this moment, Dark North Immortal spurted out a mouthful of blood. The power in his body was completely consumed, causing his body to fall down. Devil Slayer with the broken sword. A cold light flickered in Tan Xiao's eyes. He was afraid of Clearwater clan's abstruse immortal, but he wasn't afraid of these celestial immortals. As the immortal sword continued to attack, he also displayed the devouring divine ability. As the surrounding airflow became distorted, the 7 or 8 celestial immortals besieging him suddenly swayed a bit. Again, as the immortal sword swept toward 2 enemies, Tan Xiao unleashed another divine sword. In an instant, the divine sword burst out with a 10,000-meter-long sword light. The 2 celestial immortals who were focused on defending against the attack of the immortal sword were caught off guard, and the divine sword directly killed them. I'm still too weak. Tan Xiao secretly smiled bitterly in his heart. If his cultivation was 1 level higher, even if he reached the Earth Immortal stage, he was confident that he could easily kill these celestial immortals. Watch out. Suddenly, Tan Xiao's expression slightly changed. He found that a sword shadow had chopped off Dark North Immortal's left arm. He didn't have time to attack the others and instantly dashed to Dark North Immortal's side. He reached out to grab his severed arm and then hugged his waist, falling to the ground like a meteor. Kill them. Among the remaining celestial immortals, 3 of them were still besieging Yu Zhong, while the other 6 were chasing after Tan Xiu and Dark North Immortal. It seemed that they wouldn't stop until they killed the 2. Not far away, Gu Yan and the Aurelian Artificer Sect's Patriarch were already fighting with the other 2 Clearwater clan's golden immortals. Even though the Aurelian Artificer Sect's Patriarch was seriously injured, he didn't show any mercy in the fight. However, what made him secretly startled was that the woman who came to help him was really powerful. Her single attack had killed the 2 enemies several times. Even though they managed to avoid being hit in their vital parts, they still suffered heavy injuries. "Get out of my way!" shouted Gu Yan'er in a cold voice. Her figure seemed to have turned into layers of sword shadows that instantly swept past the 2 Clearwater clan's patriarchs. One of the Clearwater clan's patriarchs was directly cut off at the waist, and his immortal body was shredded into pieces by the scattering sword energy. On the ground, the moment Tan Xiu landed, he fiercely threw Dark North Immortal away and shouted in a deep voice, "Hide and recover your strength." After saying that, he directly gave up controlling the immortal sword and used his natal divine sword to fight the 6 celestial immortals. Tan Xiu cast various divine abilities and secret techniques very smoothly. Coupled with the assistance of his Devour divine ability, the 6 celestial immortals couldn't attack him in their best state. Therefore, they couldn't kill Tan Xiu for a while. "Star Devourer Insect!" Suddenly, Tan Xiu shouted. Suddenly, a stream of light flew out from his fingertips. In nearly a flash, the Star Devourer Insect's body suddenly expanded 100 times. Exuding a terrifying aura, it released sticky silk threads that directly entangled the arms and legs of the 6 celestial immortals. As the 2 celestial immortals closest to it were pulled and directly devoured by the devouring force coming out of its mouth, the other 4 celestial immortals were killed by Tan Xiu's natal divine sword. The next moment, Tan Xiu's momentum didn't diminish at all. His body dashed to the sky and in just a few breaths he came near the besieged Yu Zhong. Chapter 1261. Tan Xiu controlled the Divine Sword and the Star Devourer Insect to attack at the same time. Coupled with Yu Zhong's resistance, the last 3 celestial immortals were also killed in just a dozen seconds. When the Star Devourer Insect turned into a stream of light and re-entered Tan Xiu's body, Tan Xiu's gaze shifted to the battle on Gu Yan'er's side in the distance. His strength was too weak to help Gu Yan'er at all. However, what reassured him was that one of the 2 Clearwater clan's golden immortals had been killed by Gu Yan'er, while the other one was barely resisting and could be killed by Gu Yan'er at any time. Tan Xiu didn't notice that although Yu Zhong had many wounds on his body at this moment, he didn't seem to feel the slightest bit of pain. His eyes were dull as he stared at him in a daze. Yu Zhong was shocked, because he had been paying attention to the whole scene of the battle. Aside from the Profound Immortal and 2 Celestial Immortals who were killed by Dark North Immortal, the other 8 Celestial Immortals who besieged Tan Xiu were devoured by that strange insect-like creature, while the rest were all killed by him. Even with the help of that very strange insect-like creature, the result was still too dazzling. In addition, 2 of the 3 Celestial Immortals who besieged him died in Tan Xiu's hands. During the whole battle, Tan Xiu killed 8 Celestial Immortals in total. Such combat strength was simply terrifying. It must be noted that he had just crossed the immortal world and became an immortal, killing people who were 2 levels above him. Yu Zhong had only heard of such a heaven-defying achievement in legends. It was the first time in 1,000 years that he saw it in real life. Yu Zhong felt ashamed when he thought about how he had been dismissive of him when he had been teaching him. If he breaks through to the earthly immortal realm, won't he be able to kill celestial immortals like killing chickens? If he breaks through to the celestial immortal realm, I'm afraid even profound immortals will be mercilessly slaughtered by him, right? If he breaks through to the profound immortal stage, wouldn't the golden immortal stage be? Yu Zhong's heart skipped a beat. The way he looked at Tan Xiu suddenly became unusually hot. Suddenly, with a thought, he quickly turned to look at the battlefield not far away, and found that the last golden immortal of the Clearwater clan had been killed by Gu Yan'er and was flying in his direction. "Master, are you all right?" Gu Yenner came to Tan Xiu's side and intimately held Tan Xiu's arm as she asked. Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Some puny heaven immortals can't pose too much of a threat to me. As for you, you should have recovered to the late-stage golden immortal realm, right? He actually managed to kill them in such a short time." Gu Yenner smilingly said, "I may have lost all my immortal artifacts and the might of my spells and divine abilities are not as strong as before, but it's still a piece of cake for me to deal with some golden immortals with my current cultivation level. Even if we encounter a perfected golden immortal, I'm still confident that I can escape with you, master." Even though Tan Xiu knew that Gu Yenner was once regarded as a terrifying demoness in the immortal world, he had only seen Gu Yenner fight a few times. But after this battle, Tan Xiu looked at Gu Yenner in a new light. Back when he was still a golden immortal, he was probably only able to do what she did now, no? "Thank you, fellow immortals. Changla can't thank you enough for saving me. From now on, the three of you are the benefactors of my Aurelian Artificer sect." The Aurelian Artificer sect's ancestor rushed over with scars all over his body. He was shocked by Gu Yenner's terrifying power, but he was also full of gratitude. He was perfectly aware that he and Dark North Immortal would have died in this battle had it not been for these three people's sudden rescue. A surprised look flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He carefully observed this golden immortal old man who called himself Changlu and asked, "My family's elders have some relationship with your Aurelian Artificer sect, so it's only natural for them to help you this time. Are you a Chang generation disciple of your Aurelian Artificer sect?" Dark North Everblythe looked surprised and said, "I'm indeed a Chang generation disciple of your Aurelian Artificer sect. May I ask who your family's elder is, fellow immortal?" "You should know about the gold-forging heavenly book, yes?" Tan Xiu lightly smiled. "My family's elder once mentioned to me that he came to this immortal domain by chance thousands of years ago, and left behind an immortal fate there. The gold-forging heavenly book?" Dark North Everblythe's eyes instantly turned saucer with disbelief. He was still wary of Tan Xiu's group of three, but after hearing this name, the wariness in his heart instantly disappeared without a trace, and was replaced by a pleasant surprise and gratitude. The reason why his Aurelian Artificer sect was able to become a famous sect in this immortal domain in just a few thousand years was mainly because of the gold-forging heavenly book that was used to refine immortal artifacts. This masterpiece, which was regarded as the most precious treasure of his sect, was obtained by a mysterious powerhouse who exchanged some refining materials with his Aurelian Artificer sect several thousand years ago. "Fellow immortal, are you that senior's junior?" Dark North Everblythe was full of excitement, and his breathing became a bit rapid as he asked with a face full of expectation. Only a handful of people in this immortal world know about the gold-forging heavenly book. Tan Xiu lightly smiled. "Nobody knows that my family's elder came here several thousand years ago. Do you think I'll lie to you?" "I wouldn't dare," Dark North Everblythe excitedly said. "I was just an Earth immortal several thousand years ago. My status was too low at that time, so I didn't have the chance to meet that aristocratic elder. But I never thought that I would actually meet that senior's descendant today. It's really a blessing of 3 lifetimes. May I ask, how should I address you, fellow immortal?" "Great Tang Heavenly Emperor," replied Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Dark North Everblythe stared blankly for a moment, and felt a bit strange. One must know that only those super powerhouses who had broken through to the supremacy stage in the entire immortal world dared to use the title, Heavenly Emperor. Of course, there were also some perfected golden immortals that used the honorific title of Great Emperor. But all of those perfected golden immortals were terrifying monstrous geniuses that weren't much inferior to an exalt. Yet this little guy in front of him, who didn't even seem to have reached the Earth immortal stage, actually dared to call himself Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Wasn't he afraid of being ridiculed? Dark North Everblythe chuckled inwardly and said, "Great Tang, Heavenly Emperor. What an awe-inspiring title. Sect Master and I came out this time to catch a firecloud cicada, but we didn't expect that we would be discovered by the Clearwater clan. They harbored evil intentions and pretended to be friendly with us on the surface. They were even willing to accompany us, but they attacked us when we were defenseless. Fortunately, the 3 of you came to our rescue in time and saved our lives. We'll always remember this great kindness in our hearts. But where are the three of you going? Tan Xiu turned around and gestured to Gu Yan. He watched her quickly search the interspatial ring carried by the Clearwater clan. Then he turned back and said, "Our target is also the Firecloud cicada. We want to catch some of them and refine them into the prismatic cloud robe." Dark North Everblythe stared blankly for a moment. Then he forced a smile and said, "If Sect Master and I weren't injured, we could have helped the three of you. But we..." Tan Xiu interrupted him and asked, "What about the healing elixirs you brought?" "All of them have been used up," answered Dark North Everblythe. Tan Xiu thought for a while and asked again, "Do you have the 1,000 leaves grass, 10,000-year-old toadstool, blood hazelnut, and white phoenix dew?" Dark North Everblythe immediately nodded and said, "Except for the white phoenix dew, which is a precious spirit liquid, the other three are ordinary immortal medicines. I happen to have them here." Tan Xiu asked for 4 kinds of alchemy materials and signaled Dark North Everblythe to check Dark North Immortal's injury. Then, under the protection of Gu Yan, he took out the demon god spirit devourer cauldron and began to concoct the springtime elixir. This elixir was very easy to concoct and its effect was mediocre, but it had a very good healing effect for immortals below the golden core stage. Of course, it was countless times better than the holy healing elixir Tan Xiu had concocted in the past. Upon seeing that Tan Xiu was about to concoct the elixir immediately, Dark North Everblythe was a bit surprised, but he still quickly went to the place where Dark North Immortal was recuperating. After observing, he found that Dark North Immortal's life was not in danger. It was just that his injury was too serious, and he had consumed too much immortal force. Only then did he feel relieved. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed by. When Tan Xiu cast the pill assimilation art, the lid of the demon god spirit devourer cauldron floated up, and dozens of glittering and translucent springtime elixirs floated out of the cauldron, and were stored inside the jade bottle Tan Xiu took out. In these 3 days, Yu Zhong had been waiting nearby. He originally thought that Tan Xiu only knew a little about alchemy, and wanted to take advantage of this time to concoct some healing elixirs. However, when the lid of the cauldron was opened and he saw dozens of glittering and translucent springtime elixirs floating out of the inside, he was so shocked that his eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. It was the springtime elixir. It was a very precious healing elixir. Apart from those super forces, who else could afford such a healing elixir? Furthermore, what made Yu Zhong collapse the most was that it was fine to concoct the springtime elixir, but how could he refine dozens of them at once? It must be noted that he had just broken through to the immortal stage, and was not even an earth immortal yet. Similarly, just like Yu Zhong, the Aurelian artificer sect's ancestor, Dark North Everblythe, was also shocked. He had seen many alchemy grandmasters concocting pills, but he had never seen a freak who could refine dozens of springtime elixirs with only a few herbs. Dark North Everblythe watched as Tan Xiu put away the cauldron and floated to the front. He hesitated and said, "Great Tang immortal friend, are you concocting the springtime elixir? As far as I know, no one has ever used so few herbs to refine so many." Tan Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. He threw 10 springtime elixirs to him and lightly smiled. "You'll know whether it's the springtime elixir or not after you take it." Dark North Everblythe hesitated for a moment, and immediately took one of the springtime elixirs. Feeling the rich medicinal efficacy, he couldn't help but be moved. He nodded and said, "It's indeed the springtime elixir, and it's a middle grade one at that. Great Tang immortal friend's attainments in alchemy have gone beyond my knowledge. I really admire you." Chapter 1262. Tan Xiu had refined a total of 32 springtime immortal pills this time. He had given 10 to Dark North Everblythe, leaving 22 left. Looking at Yu Zhong's longing eyes, he threw 2 of them to Yu Zhong as though he was throwing garbage, and then put away the remaining 20. In the immortal world, each springtime immortal pill was equivalent to half a life. If one suffered a serious injury, they could quickly recover after taking the springtime immortal pill. Dark North Everblythe and Dark North Immortal had taken the springtime immortal pill for less than 2 days, and their injuries were already healed. Since both sides were targeting the Firecloud cicadas, they traveled together and quickly rushed toward the starfield where the Firecloud cicadas appeared. Blazing Flame Starfield. The starfield's area was not very large, but it was full of high temperature. By the time Tanxio's group of 5 arrived here, they had already experienced more than a dozen fights. Every time, the 5 of them would be able to slaughter their enemies and snatch the cultivation resources they carried with them. It was precisely this kind of robbery-like killing that made Dark North ever blithe and Dark North Immortal smile bitterly and feel helpless. If only, had it not been for Tanxio's group of 3 who saved them, they would have left long ago. After all, robbery was a disgrace to them given their status. However, Tanxio didn't care about it at all. At first, he just wanted to rob them and didn't want to kill them. But apart from 5 groups of people who attacked them first, the other 6 or 7 groups of enemies were also very ruthless and ruthless. Tanxio was perfectly aware that the immortals who came to the Sunglow Starfield were all ruthless and merciless characters. After all, every immortal had mentally prepared themselves before coming here. For the sake of resources, they would risk their lives even if they had to die here. It's about time, Master. Guyen sorted out all the resources they had plundered and pulled Tanxio's arm with a smile. It's far from enough. Tanxio shook his head. How can we let go of this opportunity since we ran into the Aurelian Artificer sect master? Yen, let's hunt the Firecloud cicadas first. When we get more, we can sell them. Guyen instantly understood Tanxio's thoughts. She nodded and said, that's good too. After all, we're going to face many dangers along the way, so it's a good thing to get more cultivation resources. Master, we've been out for quite some time. The sooner we finish our business, the sooner we can go back. There are no experts keeping watch over there. I'm afraid that something might happen. Tanxio said. I'm also worried, so I know what to do. The conversation between the 2 of them was conducted through voice transmission, so the 3 people nearby did not hear it. Dark North Immortal suddenly interjected. Great Tang Immortal friend, we've robbed a lot of resources along the way, so we don't need to be reserved anymore. If we find someone hunting a Firecloud cicada here, we'll directly snatch it. This kind of spiritual object belongs to whoever snatches it. Tanxio, contrary to his usual behavior, shook his head and said, you can't take it. Dark North Immortal stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression. Why not? We've. Tanxio raised his hand to interrupt him, and said with a solemn expression. The immortals who can hunt Firecloud cicadas are very fearsome, at least at the Golden Immortal stage. As far as I know, even some perfected Golden Immortals occasionally come here to hunt Firecloud cicadas. Therefore, to avoid kicking an iron plate, let's give up on snatching it for the time being. Dark North Immortal suddenly understood, and pondered for a moment. Then he curiously asked, Great Tang Immortal friend, I have a question in my mind. I wonder if I should ask it. Just say it, said Tanxio. You've obtained a lot of cultivation resources since we dealt with the Clearwater clan. Isn't that enough? Did you run into some trouble or something? Why are you in such an urgent need for cultivation resources? Tanxio forced a smile and said, You've seen through me. That's right. We're indeed facing a shortage of resources. Also, I have another idea. I was going to tell you about it after we hunt some Firecloud cicadas, but since we've already come to this point, I'll get straight to the point. Go ahead. Dark North Immortal's expression moved and he immediately nodded. My clan belongs to a super force in the entire immortal world, said Tanxio. But the clan is too big, and there are countless outstanding juniors in it. I'm just one of them, and I was sent to a remote place to gain experience. Therefore, a large number of my subordinates are in dire straits and need a lot of cultivation resources. Therefore, I want to order a batch of immortal artifacts from your sect. The doubts in Dark North Immortal's heart finally dissipated. He now fully understood why Gu Yen, a powerhouse who was just a step away from reaching the perfected Golden Immortal stage, would disregard her status to rob others' wealth. How many do you need? What kind? Dark North Immortal also learned some of Tanxio's identity, so he also wanted to befriend him. After all, befriending the scion of a top super clan in the immortal world would be very beneficial for their secluded Aurelian artificer sect. Tan Xiu thought for a while and said, I want 240,000 immortal swords. The quality doesn't need to be too high, just beginner-grade immortal swords will do. 240,000 sets of defensive combat robes. The stronger the defense, the better. I'll provide you with the design of the combat robes. Also, I want a batch of your Aurelian artificer sect's divine weapons, such as concealed weapons. The more, the better. 240,000 sets. Dark North Immortal's mouth twitched, and he could only force a bitter smile inwardly. Such a huge number gave him a deep sense of powerlessness. His sect was indeed a big sect in this immortal domain, but it would be very strenuous for him to refine so many immortal swords and combat robes in a short time. 10 years. I need at least 10 years. Dark North Immortal hesitated for a long time before he gritted his teeth and said, 1 year. I can only give you 1 year at most. Tan Xiu shook his head. You can rest assured that I'll definitely give you immortal stones and immortal crystals to buy the weapons. But I can only stay in your immortal domain for a year. After that, I'll lead my men to other immortal domains. That's impossible. Dark North Immortal shook his head. Our Aurelian artificer sect may have tens of thousands of disciples, but it's impossible for us to refine so many immortal swords and armors in a year. I can pay you immortal stones and immortal crystals in advance, said Tan Xiu. You can use the wealth to recruit artificer masters who are proficient in refining. I think you should have a deep relationship with some other artificer masters since you're a refiner sect. I'll give you twice the market price. How about it? Dark North Immortal looked at Dark North Everblythe, and the two of them exchanged voice transmissions for more than 10 minutes. Finally, Dark North Immortal said, We'll guarantee the delivery within a year according to the normal price. You've saved my life and the ancestors, so you're the benefactor of my sect. We'll guarantee to complete the task even if we have to suffer a loss. After saying that, he cast a spell and sent the news back to the Aurelian artificer sect, so that the sect could prepare in advance. A few days later, the 5 of them found traces of firecloud cicadas near the crater of an erupting volcano. Dark North Everblythe observed for a while, and then said with a wry smile, I've been here several times and know some of the habits of firecloud cicadas. Now that this volcano is erupting, I'm afraid that all the firecloud cicadas within hundreds of thousands of miles will be attracted here. However, they'll enter the magma inside the volcano as soon as they come. So we must wait for the volcano to extinguish and the firecloud cicadas inside to come out. Tan Xiu looked at the erupting volcano and shook his head with a smile. No need to go through so much trouble. Just watch me. After saying that, he stopped Gu Yan'er from following him and flew to the sky above the erupting magma alone. He then took out a pitch-black bottle from his interspatial ring, unplugged the cork, and poured it into the magma below. Insect-devouring liquid. Tan Xiu's group of 5 found it in the interspatial ring of one of the immortals they robbed. This insect-devouring liquid was a huge temptation for the firecloud cicadas, but it also had great benefits. Once the firecloud cicadas smelled the insect-devouring liquid, they would drill out of the magma. Thousands of years ago, Tan Xiu was able to easily hunt the firecloud cicadas due to his formidable strength. But he later slaughtered dozens of devils, and obtained the insect-devouring liquid from them. Unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to use it until the end. Sure enough, a few minutes later, Tan Xiu clearly saw the firecloud cicadas. The fist-sized firecloud cicadas had a crimson body and eyes that glittered with multicolored light. 2 minutes after the first firecloud cicada appeared, Tan Xiu saw a total of more than 30 firecloud cicadas. Star Devourer insect, help me capture all these firecloud cicadas. If you can capture all of them, I'll give you a medicinal pill to increase your strength. Tan Xiu transmitted his voice to Star Devourer insect. It's a deal. As Star Devourer insect's voice came from his sea of consciousness, Tan Xiu immediately released it, and watched its body appear a kilometer away, before it began to swell. Whoosh! A terrifying devouring force firmly locked more than 30 firecloud cicadas. In just 10 seconds, More than 30 fire-cloud cicadas screamed as they were swallowed by Star Devourer insect. As Tan Xiu threw 36 jade bottles, Star Devourer insect directly swallowed them and put the 36 fire-cloud cicadas into the jade bottles. Here, Star Devourer insect spat out all the jade bottles and then turned into a stream of light that disappeared into Tan Xiu's body. Satisfied, Tan Xiu put the 36 jade bottles into his interspatial ring and then flew to the dumbfounded and seemingly petrified Dark North Everblithe, Dark North Immortal, and Yuzhong in the distance. Then he lightly smiled and said, "Why are you looking at me like that? In fact, hunting fire-cloud cicadas is quite simple." Simple? The trio's mouths twitched, and they turned their faces to the side at the same time. They really wanted to beat Tan Xiu up. What was simple, for Tan Xiu, was extremely difficult for them. And the difficulty was beyond their imagination. Anyways, how many fire-cloud cicadas do I need to pay for the weapons I ordered before, Dark North Immortal? Tan Xiu smiled. You should know that fire-cloud cicadas are very valuable. Chapter 1263. Although Dark North Immortal was shocked by how easily Tan Xiu hunted the fire-cloud cicadas, he still couldn't help but pout inwardly after hearing his words. The value of the fire-cloud cicadas was indeed very high, but the total value of that huge order was much higher than dozens of them. Tan Xiu took out 10 jade bottles and handed them to Dark North Immortal. Then he smilingly said, "I have other uses for the other fire-cloud cicadas, so I'll take these 10 as part of the immortal crystals. Give me an estimate and see how many immortal crystals I need to pay you after deducting the total price of these 10 fire-cloud cicadas." Dark North Immortal carefully pondered for a long while, and then slowly said, 400,000 immortal crystals. Even if my sect doesn't earn a penny, I'm afraid we'll still need 400,000 more. Aside from the immortal sword and combat robe, if you want other weapons, the price. I can't take out 400,000 immortal crystals now, but I can give you 100,000 for now. Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Consider it as an advance payment for the 10 fire-cloud cicadas. A year later, I'll pay you the rest when I come to pick up the immortal sword and combat robe. How about it?" Dark North Immortal wiped his cold sweat and forced a smile. "I'm not trying to be poor, Great Tang Immortal friend. My sect may have a big business, but we're not particularly rich. 400,000 immortal crystals is comparable to the entire wealth of a large sect. My sect can't take out so many immortal crystals in advance." Tan Xiu secretly rolled his eyes inwardly. He didn't expect that the sects and clans in this immortal domain would be so poor. He had robbed the 3 major clans and obtained less than 100,000 immortal crystals in total. Coupled with his recent gains, he barely had more than 100,000 immortal crystals. After pondering for a while, Tan Xiu took all the resources Guyan had and then gave them to Dark North Immortal. Then he said, "The total value should be 300,000 immortal crystals. Including the 10 fire-cloud cicadas, I still owe you 100,000 immortal crystals. Am I right?" Dark North Immortal took the interspatial ring and counted all the resources and wealth inside. Then he nodded and said, "There should be about 310,000 immortal crystals." Tan Xiu said, "All right, I'll owe you 200,000 immortal crystals. You'll help me refine immortal weapons and combat robes as soon as possible. As for the other 100,000 immortal crystals, you'll help me refine a batch of the weapons you're good at. I'll take the 200,000 immortal crystals to your Aurelian Artificer sect within half a year and pay you." Dark North Immortal felt relieved inwardly and nodded with a smile. "I believe you, Great Tang fellow Immortal." Tang Xiu shook his head and forced a smile. "I've been busy for a long time, yet I suddenly became a poor man again. Forget it, let's part ways here. I'll definitely visit you personally within 2 years. Dark North Everwood Chong North, Dark North Immortal cupped his fists. Just as he and Dark North Everblithe were about to leave, he suddenly turned to look at Tang Xiu and smilingly said, "Great Tang Immortal friend, you can visit the Clearwater clan if you have time. 2 of the Clearwater clan's ancestors have been killed, leaving only 1 ancestor at the Golden Immortal stage. As far as I know, The Clearwater clan's wealth is much richer than our Aurelian artificer sect. Tan Xiu's eyes lit up and he smilingly asked, "Don't you want to take revenge?" "My Aurelian artificer sect won't forgive the Clearwater clan if we don't accept your order," said Dark North Immortal. "You're short on money now, so I'm naturally willing to give you this benefit. The Clearwater clan's wealth is enough to pay the remaining 200,000 immortal crystals." "I understand." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. As Dark North Immortal and Dark North Everblithe left, Tan Xiu took out another interspatial ring from his interspatial ring and weighed it in his hand. Then he forced a smile and said, "I've been working so hard for a long time. Yet I only have 1 million immortal stones and 5,000 immortal crystals left. I'm so poor." Suppressing her laughter, Gu Yan'er said, "Master, where are we going next since we got the fire cloud cicada?" Tan Xiu glanced at Yu Zhong and threw a jade bottle containing a fire cloud cicada to him. Then he lightly smiled and said, "Let's go directly to the immortal domain where the auric perfusion source is located. If I can get the auric perfusion source, I should be able to contend with profound immortals within a few years." Gu Yan'er nodded with a smile and said, "We must get the auric perfusion source even if we have to risk our lives. My strength will advance by leaps and bounds if I can get more of it. It won't be a problem for me to recover to my peak." Yu Zhong followed at the side with a strange look in his eyes. Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er's conversation this time didn't avoid him, so he could instantly hear some sensitive issues from their conversation. For example, the recovery of her strength. But now, this woman was already a late-stage golden immortal, yet she was not at her peak. Then, what was she at her peak? Perfected golden immortal? Also, an ordinary immortal who had just broken through to the immortal stage actually said that he would be able to contend with profound immortals within a few years? Was this a joke? Yu Zhong raised his hand to touch the bridge of his nose. He suddenly recalled the scene of Tan Xiu slaughtering celestial immortals, and immediately realized that he wasn't bragging and could really contend with profound immortals. Freak. Terrifying. After giving Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er a definition in their hearts, they actually had the idea to follow Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er. After all, they could go further and become stronger if they could follow powerhouses. Rubble Starry Sea. Under Yu Zhong's lead, Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er took more than 2 months to reach the Rubble Starry Sea where the auric perfusion source was located. It was a very desolate place. At first, the trio could still meet some immortals, but in the last 4 days, they didn't even see one. Meteorites hovered in the vast void. Hundreds of millions of meteorites formed a meteorite belt. Due to the movement of these meteorites, those who were slightly weaker could be struck and killed by the meteorites. In the eyes of almost all immortals, this starfield was a garbage dump. Occasionally, there were some small stars or meteorites that contained some treasures, but the quantity was very small. Therefore, no immortals were willing to come here to hunt for treasures, because it was undoubtedly like rummaging through a garbage dump. As they moved forward, Yu Zhong looked into the distance. When he saw a black planet ahead, he immediately pointed there and said, "There's a hurricane belt ahead. We need to pass through the hurricane belt, and then land on that black planet. There's an ancient teleportation array on the black planet. I don't know exactly where the teleportation array will teleport us to. I can only be sure that the heavenly abode is at the other end of the teleportation array." Tan Xiu frowned and asked, "What about coming back?" "How?" "If we want to come back, we can directly step on the teleportation array at the other end, and it will automatically send us back," said Yu Zhong. "I came back directly like that last time." "Let's go." Tan Xiu thought about it, and immediately made up his mind. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. He must take risks if he wanted to obtain a heaven-defying treasure, like the auric perfusion source. Even Yu Zhong could escape from there alive, and obtain the auric perfusion source. He believed that he and Gu Yan'er could also get it smoothly. The hurricane belt. It wasn't too dangerous for celestial immortals. Therefore, with Gu Yan'er, a golden immortal powerhouse, they were able to easily pass through and land on the huge black planet. What surprised Tan Xiu was that the soil of this planet was black and very fertile. But the strange thing was that there was no life on this planet. "It's over there." Yu Zhong judged it and then led the other two to fly quickly. 2 hours later, they arrived in front of a teleportation array. This teleportation array looked dilapidated, and one corner of it even had traces of being destroyed. However, Tan Xiu could tell that this teleportation array was not affected and could still operate normally. But before it could operate, he needed to put immortal stones in the groove. Put in the immortal crystals. To prevent any accidents, Tan Xiu immediately took out 8 immortal crystals and embedded them in the groove. Then he and Gu Yan'er exchanged glances and the 3 of them immediately stepped into the teleportation array. Buzz! A mysterious aura instantly enveloped the 3 of them, followed by a feeling of dizziness. The 3 of them felt as if a century had passed, but it also felt like a snap of a finger. When the 3 of them regained their vision, they immediately discovered that they had appeared in an empty space. There was no blue sky and white clouds here, nor was there any soil. What he was stepping on was a material that looked like gold, but wasn't gold, and jade but wasn't. The little bugs in the surroundings were like fireflies that had been magnified 100 times. They glowed brightly, illuminating the entire space. Ka. The mechanical voice came from all directions. Yu Zhong looked around, dumbfounded and confused. His lips squirmed for a while before he dryly said, "I swear we didn't appear here when we used the teleportation array last time. Strange, what is this place?" Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er looked at each other and frowned. Tan Xiu said in a deep voice, "None of the 7 layers of space you mentioned has such an environment." Yu Zhong replied solemnly, "No." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Since we're already here, we might as well take things as they come. Regardless of whether this is the place where the auric perfusion source exists or not, we still need to explore it. Let's go and take a look around. If there's nothing, we'll go back." Half a day later, the 3 of them stopped in front of a vortex portal. Yu Zhong looked at the vortex portal in front of him, and finally looked pleasantly surprised. He said, "The space we appeared in before also has such a portal. We can reach the next layer after entering it." Tan Xiu released his spiritual sense, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea after entering the portal. He couldn't see the situation inside. After hesitating for a while, he and Gu Yan'er exchanged glances and nodded to each other before flying toward the portal. "You guys." Yu Zhong was aware of the dangers of this space, but after seeing Tan Xiu and Gu Yan'er enter the vortex portal, he hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and following them. Chapter 1264. In the blink of an eye, the scene in front of the trio changed. What appeared in front of them was a field of flowers and grassland. There were many living beings living in the endless grassland, but after the trio released their spiritual senses to observe, they found that these were not real living beings but mechanical puppets of various animal types. Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of the trio. Even though Gu Yan'er was a golden immortal stage powerhouse, she was still startled by the speed of this person. However, when the other stopped 100 meters away, the trio found that it was also a mechanical puppet, just that it was a humanoid one. "Welcome to the immortal Civ realm." The mechanical puppet's eyes glowed with green light as it spoke with its metallic voice. "You said this is the immortal Civ realm?" Tan Xiu frowned. "What are you?" "I'm not a thing. I'm an alchemy puppet. This is indeed the immortal Civ realm, the 11th floor of the celestial pole world. You don't have any Illumina aura on you, so I'm sure that you were directly teleported to the 10th floor, and then entered this 11th floor through the vortex portal." Tan Xiu's expression changed and he hurriedly asked, "What did you say? This is the celestial pole world?" "Yes, the 11th floor of the celestial pole world," answered the mechanical puppet. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "The celestial pole oldster has been missing for 8,000 years. It should be 8,000 years. You said this is the celestial pole world of the celestial pole oldster. Is he dead?" The mechanical puppet fell into silence for a while before 2 glittering and translucent immortal crystal essences fell from its eye sockets. Its tone also turned somewhat human as it said, "Do you know my master? My master is dead. He died from a heart demon. It's strange that my alchemy tablet doesn't have any explanation about a heart demon. In short, my master is dead and left this world. Also, my master said to wait for the fated one. Tan Xiu clenched his fists, and a look of reminiscence appeared in his eyes. In the past, he had just gotten rid of his status as a playboy and successfully became a mysterious celestial stage expert. Then he met the celestial pole old man in a dangerous and desperate situation. At that time, the celestial pole old man was just a golden celestial stage expert. Both of them didn't face any extreme danger, so they joined hands and escaped. From then on, he and the celestial pole old man became close friends. Tan Xiu even received many pointers from the celestial pole old man in terms of cultivation. I didn't expect you to fall here. Tan Xiu's heart was filled with bitterness. He looked at the mechanical puppet in front of him and nodded. Since celestial pole old man left his immortal fate here, there should be a test, right? Tell me what the test is. I'll give it a try. The mechanical puppet said, You haven't answered my question. Do you know my master? Tan Xiu said, Yes, we are old friends who fought side by side. It's just that I didn't expect him to perish here 8,000 years ago. You're wrong, said the mechanical puppet. My master has fallen 8,821 years ago. Tan Xiu didn't care about such a trivial matter with the mechanical puppet and said, It's been too long. I don't know the specific time of his death. It's a bit troublesome if you want to participate in the trial, said the mechanical puppet. Let me think about it. The rule set by my master is that only celestial immortals can come here, so the lowest trial takers must be weak celestial immortals. You're just an ordinary immortal who hasn't experienced the Earth Immortal Tribulation, Celestial Immortal Tribulation, or Golden Immortal Tribulation. I don't know how to arrange the trial for you. My main purpose for coming here is the auric perfusion source, said Tan Xiu. You just need to tell me what kind of test I need to pass to get the auric perfusion source. The auric perfusion source is on the 7th floor, but it's just a very poor cultivation resource, said the mechanical puppet. You're willing to use immortal crystals to activate the spatial teleportation array, which means that you have a lot of wealth. Do you really need that kind of poor cultivation resource? Tan Xiu understood what the mechanical puppet meant. If he was still a supreme in the immortal world, the auric perfusion source would indeed be very poor for him. But the problem was that he was only comparable to a celestial immortal at most, and he was extremely poor. He also had an empire with more than 200,000 cultivators to train. The auric perfusion source was already a very good treasure for him. I do need it. Tan Xiu nodded. You don't need to take any tests from the 1st to the 9th floor. You can take anything you want, said the mechanical puppet. Upon hearing this, Tan Xiu immediately asked, How can I pass the final test? Since it's my old friend's pocket world, I want to take it with me. You're not qualified to participate in the trial, but the two beside you can, said the mechanical puppet. But the trial is very dangerous. 49,872 immortals have come here to take the trial, and a total of 37,216 people died in the trial. All the trial takers at the Golden Immortal stage have fallen. Tan Xiu's heart tightened. He was well aware of Celestial Pole Geezer's ability. If he hadn't fallen prematurely, he would have had a chance to break through to the supremacy stage. I want to try it, master. Gu Yan'er said with a calm expression. Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows. He thought for a while and said, I know you want to participate in the trial, Yan'er, but I'm afraid this trial can't be completed in a short time. Besides, we still have important things to do, so we don't have much time to waste here. If you really want to participate in the trial, I'll accompany you again after we've settled down in the future. Gu Yan'er thought for a while and nodded. I'll listen to you, master. Tan Xiu looked at the mechanical puppet and asked with a smile, Why did we teleport directly to the 10th floor? This friend of mine has also been here before, but they were directly teleported to the 1st floor. That's because they used immortal stones to activate the teleportation array, not immortal crystals. Actually, this is a test of sacrifice. If you're willing, you'll be able to obtain the items from the first 9 floors. If you're unwilling, you'll have to go through the trials 1 floor at a time. Tan Xiu revealed a strange expression. Previously, he was only afraid that the transmission array would not allow them to return, so he used the spiritual crystal. He did not expect that by a freak combination of factors, he would actually pass the outermost test. He turned to look at Yu Zhong. Looking at Yu Zhong's lifeless face, he suddenly felt like crying and laughing. Now, this guy was probably regretting it so much that his intestines had turned green, right? If they had been willing to do the same, not only would they not have died, but they would have also obtained many treasures and escaped unscathed. Tan Xiu looked at the mechanical puppet again and said, "Send us to the 9th floor. In a while we'll collect some things and leave." 2 beams of red light shot out of the mechanical puppet's eyes, and a whirlpool portal appeared in front of the 3. The Immortals have collected most of the items from the first 9 floors, but there's still some auric perfusion left. I hope you'll be satisfied. Thanks a lot. Tan Xiu slightly smiled, and immediately stepped into the whirlpool portal. The 9th floor. The 8th time. The 1st floor. Tan Xiu and Gu Yan simply searched every inch of the place. In just 2 days, they had collected all the items in the first 9 floors and put them into interspatial rings. If someone else came here again, they would not be able to get any treasures from the first 9 floors. Immediately after, the 3 of them stepped on the return teleportation array and reappeared on the ground. Tan Xiu said with satisfaction, "I thought we would have to go through some crises, but I didn't expect that a temporary idea would save us so much effort. Although the first 9 floors have been visited by many people, we still got a lot of treasures, much more than the wealth we plundered before. It's a pity that there's too little time. Else I'd have asked the Aurelian Artificer sect to refine more weapons for us. Let's not talk about other things, just the auric perfusion source alone has more than 100 portions," Gu Yan said with a smile. "I'm afraid we can sell it for 100,000 immortal crystals if we were to casually sell it." Tan Xiu nodded inside. Although robbery is the fastest way to get money, the wealth we can rob is also limited. After all, there are still many poor people in the immortal world. If we take the risk, we might be able to get a very huge amount of wealth. Yu Zhong, who was at the side, also obtained a portion of the auric perfusion source and several other treasures that were very useful to him. But thinking back to the time when he used the immortal stone to inlay it into the groove to activate the teleportation array, he felt depressed. If he could get a lot of treasures last time, he might have the hope to break through to the profound immortal stage now. Or rather, he would have become a profound immortal powerhouse. How could Tan Xiu not see Yu Zhong's depression? He patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't be depressed. If you used immortal crystals last time, you might not have come out alive." Yu Zhong was stunned and asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" Tan Xiu said lightly, "Think about it. If you used immortal crystals last time, even if you didn't accept the trial later and directly searched for treasures in the first 9 floors, wouldn't your companions be jealous? Wouldn't your companions be jealous of such a huge amount of wealth? Some people are very selfish and want to take it all for themselves. How big of a chance do you think you would have to escape alive?" A glint flashed in Yu Zhong's eyes and most of his depressed mood immediately disappeared. He knew that Tan Xiu was right. His companions couldn't fully trust each other at the beginning. If any of them were to harbor evil thoughts at the sight of wealth, he might really fall inside. "Thank you." Yu Zhong cupped his fists and said, "You don't need to thank me. Just remember my advice." Tan Xiu smiled and said, "Don't ever regret anything you've chosen in the future. Regret is useless and will only affect your state of mind instead. If you're right, then you're right. If you're wrong, then you're wrong. Only by having no complaints or regrets can you open your heart and welcome a better future." Yu Zhong smiled and nodded. Then he suddenly said, "Great Tang immortal friend, it's really a waste of your talent that you didn't establish your own sect and become an immortal master of your sect." Gu Yan at the side couldn't help but laugh. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.